More Epstein photos have emerged, so we'll discuss that. Bijan Robinson has said a no-no word and was forced to apologize. Australia has banned social media for kids under 16, and Reddit has done the most Reddit thing that you can imagine. They're suing. AI ads are coming to your Netflix shows, and we'll also talk about Tyler Robinson. But first, we've got some sponsors we want to talk about.
We got a sponsor for you, Tax Network USA. Do you owe back taxes or haven't filed in years? Now it's time to resolve your tax matters. With the national conversation around abolishing the income tax system, the IRS is fighting back and proving it's here to stay by becoming more aggressive than ever before. They're sending out more collection notices, filing more tax liens, and collecting billions more than in recent years. If you owe the IRS, the IRS can take your wages, bank accounts, Social Security, retirement, and even your home. If you owe or haven't filed, it's not a question of if the IRS will act, it's when. Right now, Tax Network USA is offering a completely free IRS research and discovery call to show you exactly where you stand and what they can stop before it's too late. Their powerful programs and strategies can save you thousands or even eliminate your debt entirely if you want to. Don't make a serious mistake. Representing yourself or calling the IRS on your own, waiving your rights and can cost you more money. They are not on your side. Get protected the right way with Tax Network USA and start the process on settling your tax matters once and for all today. Call 1-800-958-1000 or click the link below for your free discovery call with Tax Network USA. Don't let the IRS be the first to act. And it is Beam Dream, my friends. You got to go to shopbeam.com to get Beam Dream, your nighttime blend to support better sleep. I'm such a huge fan of this. My sleep has been amazing. I'm not kidding. I think I reached like a 97 on my sleep score a couple days ago when I started drinking this before bed. It's hot cocoa. There's cinnamon cocoa. There's pumpkin, a bunch of different flavors. And it's got L-theanine, magnesium, melatonin. If you go to shopbeam.com/TimPool, you can get 35% off when you click the link in the description below. It's sugar-free, just 15 calories, and it tastes absolutely amazing. No kidding. The cinnamon cocoa is my favorite, but I also really do love the pumpkin spice. So let me just add, it's not just magnesium, L-theanine. It's also got reishi. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Help your body naturally unwind and recover. I had one friend telling me that whatever, he was saying, like, if you drink caffeine, you got to do equal amounts of L-theanine later in the day to like help you go to sleep or whatever. Well, I'm like, Beam Dream's got it all. Check out shopbeam.com/TimPool. I really am a huge fan, Beam. You guys rock. Thank you for sponsoring this show.
So as you can tell, Tim Pool is out today. He's getting some dental work done, and I am Phil Labonte here to hold it down. We've got some great guests tonight, starting with John Doyle.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Introduce yourself. What do you do?
I talk about politics on the internet, and today I'm going to do that with my cool friends here. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. Jack Posobiec is here.
What's going on, man? Wish Tim were here, but he is getting all of his teeth replaced with cybernetic implants. I'm really excited to see what comes out of that, and that will also then finally be able to control his speech. So, I will be programming that and hacking it immediately.
Yeah, I hear it's like they're all basically each individual Neuralink for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're just Neuralinks for each of the teeth.
Right. Josh is here.
What's up, guys? Making my IRL debut today. So, I'm your Timcast news producer. So, I'm glad to be here. Glad to be with you guys before the holiday season. I love it. So
Awesome. And Mr. Brown is holding it down.
What is going on, Patriots? This is Tate Brown. You're holding it down. Yeah, if you've seen any gemming out in the Timcast News Twitter, it's because of this man right here. He is he's dropping truth and nukes. So go check out Timcast News. And I've been hosting on the Culture War channel Across the Pond with Connor Tomlinson. We just wrapped 2 great episodes. They'll be going up over the weekend. One with Oron McIntyre. So be out on the lookout for that. That one will be uploaded on Connor's channel, but we will be on the collab, so you'll see it in your feed. So go check it out. It was a great episode.
So, like we were saying earlier, Bijan Robinson has said a no-no word. I got to pull up. Where's the over here? Over here? Yeah. Okay. So, we're going to start with the Epstein stuff. Yeah. So they have released. I'm not sure who's released these photos, but more photos from Epstein estate has been released. And as usual, they're trying to smear Donald Trump. The BBC is reporting. BBC Verify has been analyzing the 19 photos from the estate of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, published today by the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. Using reverse image search, an online tool which matches an image to any previous versions on the internet, we've been able to confirm that at least 3 of the photos have been seen before. One photo shows President Donald Trump alongside Epstein and a woman at an event. This was taken at a Victoria's Secret party in New York in 1997 and has been published by U.S. media. Getty Images has different photos of Trump and the woman at the event, and it identified her as model Ingrid Sainoven? Can't pronounce that. Anyways, another photo shows Andrew Mountainbat, Windsor, and Bill Gates. We found the same photo on Getty Images, and it was taken in 2018 at a summit in London. King Charles can also be seen in the original image, but it was cropped out of the version published by Democrats.
Oh,
it seems
crop the king.
Wow.
Right? Crop the king.
It seems to me that this is just more effort to smear Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, the fact that they crop, so it's funny how BBC, right? They're under like official naming conventions here, so you can't say Prince Andrew anymore because he's no longer Prince Andrew. So you get Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, but then King Charles is still King Charles. But the Democrats actually cropped the photo of King Charles, and this just reminds me, if you go back, that when James O'Keefe, and I always say this was the best scoop that James O'Keefe ever got, was that ABC. Remember this ABC anchor when she was off air, but they had the footage of it because somebody leaked it to him, where she was just saying, oh yeah, we've got this whole story on Epstein. We've got everything. We got the files. We got the Clintons. We've got it all. But then the royal family called and shut it down. What do you mean the royal family called and shut down your story on Epstein? And yet, once again, we get this protection of the royal family. And yeah, you look at we got a picture of Donald Trump from 2 decades ago. Yes. Like literally before any of this came out, before the same story we've heard over and over and over, but suddenly they sit and play that, it's a new picture. It's like, okay, well, we knew that Trump was at the party that's already out there. And okay, we found a picture of him and another guy at the party. And what does that actually mean? But they play this very low IQ game where, this guy, and they act like it's all part of the same circle when it's 2 decades prior.
So I got a nephew that's 20, I think he's 21 now. And he actually just texted me a few minutes ago saying that they put on NBC and they were watching the news during lunch, and that this release was talked about, and they were talking about Donald Trump the entire time. Yep. The whole point of this
psychological operation.
Exactly. It's just to link Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein in an effort by Democrats, clearly, to slime the president. And what do you think, John?
I think that's absolutely correct. He became a household name in 2019 because that was, of course, during the first Trump administration, and Democrats suspected that they'd be able to, as they're trying to now, tie it to Donald Trump, his friends, his administration. And I think that we just need to give ourselves permission to understand that these people are not like accidentally moral. They're not like accidentally like doing the right thing one time. Like the same party infrastructure that wants to groom your children, that wants them to be, undergoing these surgeries, totally fine with like everything evil, like the most evil things we've ever seen manifest politically in this country. But this one time we're supposed to believe they're like actually getting it right, and they really have their heart in the right place as they're going to, release the freaking Epstein files or whatever, specifically because they view it to be correctly a vector of attacking Trump in language that his base is sympathetic to. You can call Trump a racist every day. It's not going to work. But all of a sudden you start talking about pedophilia. That's something that we are obviously very concerned about because we see what happens in this country with child abuse. Much of that, by the way, occurring because of who floods into the country through the southern border, which they couldn't, care less about. And so, yeah, it's completely disingenuous. I don't buy any of it. And I don't think that anything that these people are saying is true.
Well, the Democrat constituent, the base, they tune into Stranger Things. The first episode, watch like a child rape scene. And they're like, by the way, Trump's a pedophile.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll sit there and defend when I went on like a jihad against Netflix and Stranger Things when this all dropped. And I'm like, it's very obvious this is hentai tentacle porn that has been put into Stranger Things. And remember, that's a retcon. So they're going back to season 1, which means the age of the child is like, I think he's like 10, 11 when that season is supposed to take place. And, they used, CGI to make him, to de-age him. And so you just see it going into his mouth, and he's like sucking down the dark juices of gay Darth Vader, who's the new bad guy in Stranger Things. But apparently it turns him into gay Luke Skywalker later on in season 5 because he gets powers because of, again, he drank the juices. But it's so disgusting, and it's just an obvious sense of, do you have that high disgust factor or not? Like, are you actually clued into what you're watching? And so I wanted to just respond to what John said because it was genius, that what the Democrats are doing here doesn't actually mean that they are better. It actually means that they are cynical, because they're so cynical that they'll use this, and they'll always skip over the fact, and everybody skips over this fact, that it was Donald Trump who arrested Jeffrey Epstein. It was Donald Trump's administration that put him in jail. And if you believe certain theories, you might even think that Donald Trump had him killed in prison because, again, he was the one who did it. He was the president when all of this happened. I'm not saying he did. I'm just like if you are on that side, wouldn't it then follow by your own internal logic? But there's also something really interesting that John said that I wanted to get to, because this came up recently with Elon when he was tweeting about this, that in the sense of that Cinnabon worker who got fired and like, oh, she said the N-word, she did this. But then Elon was pointing out, well, it's just a word. And so one of the Democrats, one of these lib accounts was coming at me talking about this, saying, oh, well, it's not acceptable under any context. But the discourse on top of that was, well, wait a minute, is a thought crime actually higher than an actual real physical crime like pedophilia? To the Democrats, it is. To the liberals, it is. In their moral infrastructure, their moral superstructure, they believe that saying a word that they don't like, a no-no word, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is actually worse than rape, murder, or pedophilia. And this kind of gets into like the heat map meme where they they constantly try to this study where they try to debunk it and they try to claim that it's not true, but it actually is true, that they don't care about things that actually happen to people. They care about thoughts and they care about feelings.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing about this is if there was a smoking gun, they would have dropped that years ago. The Biden administration would have never let that go. If they had anything on Trump about this, it would have been front and center. It would have been an extra charge to the rest of his charges that they hit him with when he was running for president back in the day. And even now, they keep dropping photos from days past. If there was any legitimacy to these allegations about Trump, we would have seen it by now. No Democrat would have ever dropped this and let that down. So, I don't know what's going on with this, but it's just like you have nothing. And even Trump says that you have nothing because you would have used it against me.
Yeah, if Serge, if you could bring up the picture again, the headline. The only point I want to make is, the BBC has blocked out, 6 women in this, and the whole point of doing that is to imply that they're underage.
Yeah.
Right. If it wasn't for the fact that they're trying to make the viewer feel a certain thing, they would just put these people put their faces on there without a problem.
Right. Yeah. What is actually happening here, like the op that we are all witnessing, is you've got a very big problem if you're a Democrat. If you're Tim Walz right now, like you're shaking in your boots, right? Because you're seeing polling where young men have shifted something like 40 points to the right in just the last few years. If you're a Democrat, you're not putting that toothpaste back in the tube. You're not going to convince these young guys that they actually should go back to being like peak woke 2020, posting black squares. It's never going to happen.
All the bad stuff happened in their formative years. Go ahead. Sorry.
So how do you solve that problem? Well, perhaps you should consider, because you're still the Leviathan, right? You still have all this money, all this institutional power. You just can't keep running the same play. It's clearly not working. Okay, so now what do? You use their momentum against them. You push them over their own skis, which is to say, I'm not going to censor you anymore because that clearly didn't work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you're so right about all these crazy things. Actually, you're more right than you even think. You are so correct that Donald Trump is actually one of these Epstein guys. Donald Trump is actually a slave to that Israel thing you just found out about 5 minutes ago. And so now you are actually so based and red-pilled that you shouldn't support Donald Trump and you shouldn't support JD Vance. You should keep talking shit on Instagram, and then I'm going to be so mad at you and defeated, and I'm going to melt down about it on CNN. Oh no, I'm so scared of young men. And then you're there like, yeah, I'm really owning these people. Meanwhile, the actual political project, which has achieved for us every success we've had in the last 10 years, every deceleration of bad things in the last 10 years, they have convinced you to not support that because you're so freaking based and you know how the world works so well right now. And then what is the manifestation of that? You are opting out of the only political process that in your lifetime has ever actually worked for you. That is the op right now that is afoot. They're not worried about ideas. They're worried about those ideas having consequences. We've all gone through the YAF reading list. Ideas have consequences, right? If your ideas are now making it so that you cannot have consequences because you think the whole thing is corrupt, we just have to wait until the people wake up, man. How's that working in South Africa? How is that working in Brazil? The people are not going to wake up. We need to actually be the ones to enact political change. And so insofar as like social media trends, censorship, all that stuff is going on, these headlines, again, It is about appealing to Trump's base in language that they understand and saying, well, actually, Trump isn't bad because of these reasons that we made up in our head. He's racist. He's a xenophobe. Now he's bad because of things that you agree with. And people are falling for it, and it is very bad.
Yeah, well, they also have these boomer NGOs that they can use basically as cannon fodder, like the royal family in this instance. The left globally hates like the idea of a royal family
They're
fundamentally.
against monarchy in its total.
And the royal family has been trying to basically gesture to them like, no, we're innocent, we're boomer NGO, like you can pray, you can tear up the Canterbury Cathedral, it's not a big deal, like don't worry about it, we're good. And it's like as soon as it means they can get at Trump, they'll like chuck the entire royal family under the bus because it's like convenient for them. Meanwhile, BBC's like platforming like Kneecap, who they're like LARPing like they're these like Irish revolutionaries and they're like going to war with the Queen. It's like, hey, the royal family hasn't been relevant in 100 years. It was like, what are we doing here? This is just an example like where they can just like totally grind these guys. They're just total cannon fodder.
And the royal family would say that they agree with everything Kneecap says, except for the fact that the royal family shouldn't be the royals.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You know,
Well, and this goes to show you that no matter how much control the left has over a certain society, like they have over the UK, for example, and this is BBC, and that's, it gives us a window into this, the way that they're very specific about the titles and which words they use, that they will still act as if they are the victims. So they will still act, they could have total control, and you see this in the Soviet Union, right? They had total control of society, they had total control of every single apparatus of society, the secret police, every stratosphere of society. They used terrorism as a tactic against their own people to control their people, and yet they would still say, oh, we're fighting the oppressive forces of tyranny, we're fighting the oppressive forces of communism or capitalism, we're fighting the oppressive forces from overseas, when ultimately they aren't actually fighting anything. You're the ones in control. This is kind of like I think, John, you and Aaron were talking about it on the Thanksgiving episode. And this line on that you guys did, and John has a great new podcast, which he has not promoted yet. But
I will.
But no, it's so good because it was that line about Christopher Columbus, and they were like, I forget exactly, but they were like, every time a teacher brings up Christopher Columbus, they say, I'm not supposed to say this, and it's like, but he was actually a bad guy. It's like, no, literally every teacher says that, and like every show about him says that. What like, remind me exactly what he said.
Yeah, I remember this very well because I just got out of the public school system like, I don't know, 8 years ago or something. But every iteration of American history, whether you're learning about it in 3rd grade, 8th grade, or in high school, they always begin it by saying, now in America, we typically don't teach this, and then they teach it. And so it's like, because if you're a liberal, you have to ignore the fact that all the most powerful people in the world pretty much agree with you and what you would like the world to look like, or what they've convinced you that the world should look like. You have to like rationalize how you want to be the revolutionary fighting the man while also controlling like every major institution, the United States government, et cetera. So the way they do that is just by telling themselves that like, oh, actually, we aren't allowed to teach this. We have banned books. You can get them at Barnes & Noble. There's a big sign that says banned books. You want to know how banned books go on the right? They cost $1,000. You don't even know if you're going to get them in the mail.
Banned book is like, will I catch charges for having this?
Can I enter the EU with this book?
That's a banned book. My Unhumans, parts of my Unhumans book got banned in Spain.
Yeah,
really.
So
No way.
He's doing something right.
it's all a lie, and they have to frame it that
Happy
way.
Franco Friday, by the way.
Oh, there we go.
We need a Protestant Franco, but I think it's Trump, actually. I digress.
Perhaps.
easy.
Yeah, my bad. Get a little fired up.
Some say Cromwell, but as a Catholic, I can't co-sign
I'm
that.
a Cromwell guy.
As a Catholic,
I am
can't
too.
co-sign that.
Protestants.
The hats were cool. That buckle, everything was great.
So I think we're going to jump to this next story now. And this is a little bit lighter fare. Bijan Robinson has said a no-no word. I believe he was doing an interview and he said, smear the queer. And then, of course, the Longhouse made him apologize.
Right.
Bijan Robinson tweeted, "Hey, everyone, I want to apologize for the insensitive comment I made in the broadcast. It was a football game we used to play as a kid, but that's not an excuse. I recognize the mistake and make sure to do better in the future. It was not reflective of my beliefs, and I am so sorry to those I offended seriously." Now, you think the left and specifically the LGBT crew, they really do embrace the phrase queer. Right? Like, it is a political identity. It's more than just about your sexual orientation.
It's the Q.
Yeah, it's the Q in LGBT.
Every time they say it, it's the Q. It's right there.
Yeah. So how is it that this is wrong for one side and right for another? And I know the answer, but I'm interested in hearing your thoughts.
I don't know. I just think that like whoever got mad at that is making a very betraying confession that they themselves were, the queer.
They were the smeared.
Batman could not beat that confession out of me. I would never have like a problem with that and indicate that I was the one being smeared in this circumstance. So yeah, it's so much. I really am of the opinion, and this is not my idea. I read this on Twitter and I'll regurgitate it because that's where all the best content is. But someone said something like, whether or not you had fun in high school is like the greatest predictor, not perfect, but the greatest predictor of how adjusted you're going to be in the real world. And that's like when I see stuff like this where people are like, you can't use that word or talk about this. Like, again, it makes you wonder, what was their experience like? Were they the one being smeared? Were they sort of in that situation? So I don't know.
It's all
the queer
kids.
And the way that we played Smear the Queer is the queer was actually like usually the top dog 'cause you would have to win the ball over.
Yeah,
And then the longer you would hold the ball, that meant the better player you were. So you actually wanted to be a queer for the longest time.
Yeah.
Actually,
I'm one of the best. Hey, San Antonio, Texas, I was one of the best queers in town.
The goal of the game
Texas,
was
that's
to
saying
be the
something.
queen.
And in San Antonio, that's
Because there's some big old women down there, too.
There's some-
They get involved,
oh,
it's
yeah.
over. They did, yeah.
Yeah, that river. Yeah, you still go down the Riverwalk and you hear the name Tate Brown is just said over and over.
Oh,
It's
my
on
God.
everyone's lips.
That's that queer. Oh, he's awesome.
oh yeah, Tate.
He's one of the best
that
queers.
guy.
Tate Brown, the queer. Yeah, the
We
queer.
tried to smear him for years.
Could it be done?
Yeah.
Could it be done?
I do want to point out that there was a time where people like to say that woke is dead, right? They like to say woke is dead, it's done. And I think that this is actually a great example of the fact that it's never done, right? The fight against the left doesn't end. It's great to have victories. You celebrate your victories. You want to acknowledge them. And when the right has power, you want to see them executing it. But that doesn't mean that the left just is going to turn tail and say, "Oh, I guess we were wrong, guys," and just crawl into a hole somewhere. They're going to regroup. They're going to push back, and you need to make sure that you're holding your politicians accountable, and you want to make sure that you're holding organizations like the NFL and like Netflix, like whoever. You want to make sure that you're holding them accountable and saying, "Look, these are our values. Stop crapping on our values and stop making it seem like we're wrong for having these values."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly less insane than it was at the peak in 2020, but I think about it like, you're conquering a city, and in the process of conquering, you're seeing some pretty ugly stuff, and it's like pretty intense. But once it's settled down and they're just kind of peacefully governing the city, they're still in power and there's still consequences for stepping out of line, but you're not seeing guys get executed or something in public. So it's certainly not as bad as it used to be, but it's still, yeah. That's a good
But I mean, I think that that's a great point. Like, we've talked about how the left has been kind of pushed back, but it's not their death throes, but as they lose ground, they become more aggressive. And I think
feral.
And I think Charlie was a great example of that.
I always thought that, and I actually said that on the show a lot, but actually Orrin McIntyre, bring him up again. He had a show yesterday. I forget her name. She does studies of political
Amy
violence.
Paladin.
Amy Paladin.
Great show. I tweeted about it.
I listened to that too. It was fantastic.
And she actually made the case as like, no, it's just ramping up. Whether there's a leftist in power, whether or not, it's actually people with an in-group preference. When their person's in charge, they take it easy. They're like, okay, we're good. He's adhering to our what we want. But people with an out-group preference, they believe they're in constant rebellion no matter what. It doesn't matter if their guy's in charge or not. They're always perpetually in rebellion.
You should
So leftist violence is just, no matter who's in charge, it's going to continue to get worse and worse until the state comes down.
They're not going to stop. You always have to keep fighting back. And if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile back, just like we see here. So it doesn't matter how much we keep pushing back. We can't settle down. You have to keep on fighting, like they do.
I want to point out that it's Arn McIntyre's podcast he does with The Blaze, and the guest was Aiden Paladin, and the overall show was about who's more violent, whether it be the left or the right. And the overall synopsis is the left is actually more frequently violent. They're less successful, and that could be because they're less competent. But you should watch the show and make the decision yourself.
Before we move subjects on this, on the smear the queer story, that I've gone back, and everyone knows my wife wasn't born in this country. But so that also just means there's a lot of media that she doesn't know about because she wasn't here in the 90s. She wasn't here. She didn't know who Will Ferrell was until recently.
Lucky.
She just didn't know. She just had no idea.
Got to show her Step Brothers.
No, we've gone through
they didn't
the
get it.
entire canon. We've gone through the canon. It was great. She loved it. And so I'll go back and just find older shows to say, oh my gosh, you've never seen this. Let's sit down and watch it. We did all of Seinfeld, Simpsons. She had never seen Simpsons. And the one we're on right now is Reno 911. Oh, right. And so I actually hadn't realized how long ago Reno started. Reno 911 is older than Tate.
A lot of things are older than Tate, but that does surprise me.
Yeah, exactly. No, well, it started 2003. That's right.
I'm a new gen, man.
2003. And those guys had shows that were even older. A lot of the same like comedy troupe, those same actors. And so the episodes that they made, which and people remember this, that was not a controversial show.
Yeah.
That was not a show that there was ever this buzz around like, oh, we should cancel Reno 911. And they're like dropping N-bombs. They talk about like literally everything under the sun. There's swastika jokes. There's jokes about Israel, Jewish people, like all obviously homosexual jokes and transvestite jokes, like all over. They actually in one episode they have a they get 2 tickets to an execution, and so everybody wants them. So in order to win the tickets for the execution, they set up a scavenger hunt. But there's a point system, and you have to arrest. Like they're like okay. And I'm just gonna say this because this was a normal like 10 p.m. comedy show in the mid 2000s or early 2000s, which was not, again, it was considered raunchy, of course, but it wasn't something that was considered like, oh, we need to pull that off the air ever.
Well, raunchy was allowed.
TV. Yeah. Raunchy was allowed. And I'm watching it. I'm like, there's my culture. And there it is. I wasn't making it up. It was real. It was all real. And you were that. And you were too. And so in the scavenger hunt, it was like, okay, you have to get someone and they have to have an animal tattoo is like 5 points. And then, and if they have a racial tattoo, that's like 10 points. And if it's a transvestite, that's 20 points. And they go, best looking hooker in town. And that's 20 points. And then at the bottom, they have the Star of David. And they're like, what's that for? And it's, it's dangling. It's like, oh, and it's double points if they're Jewish.
Oso starts a vintage aesthetics account on Twitter, but it's just like slurs from Reno.
They're double points. And at the very end, it's of course Garcia. And he's got this, this one suspect. And they're like, okay, I think that's, oh wait, no, he's still under. He's under. Wait, pulled up. And they've got a necklace of the Star of David. And they're like, no, double points. And they're like, screw you, Garcia. That tattoo is fresh. That is fresh ink. You just got that. That's a ringer. And then he ends up taking the hooker to the execution.
Cheating. Oh, there you go. Cheating.
But I mean, like, again, like it's hilarious. It's like stupid funny, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just poking fun at all the little differences between everybody. And some people call it casual racism or whatever. But the idea that like an old Chris Rock bit, that this used to be the way that we sort of like lived in society together. We have differences and we just laughed about it.
Yeah.
Casual racism implies the existence of ranked competitive racism.
Everyone gets dished on.
Well, Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, he's made this point multiple times. It's just bants, right? It's just banter, and it's how
it's banter. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
how you can relate to someone that's actually different from you.
Yep.
You make jokes. Everybody gets their turn. Everyone gets a little.
And I'm Polish, so like I grew up with it. You know,
but this is something that society used to embrace, and in our society, because the United States has so many different people from so many different backgrounds. Even if you're only talking exclusively about white people, right? It used to be the Italians and the Irish would give crap to the English and blah blah blah, and it was totally fine. It was again how you relate to each other, and it was how you made sure that you could get along in a society where there were very different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And nowadays, the left has made that so toxic that you see people actually alienating more, and you see people looking at each other's differences as something bad and something that you don't want to involve yourself in, as opposed to saying, okay, we're a little bit different, but we all kind of want the same things and we're all, very similar in a mindset.
Well, they twist you up because it's like you can't say anything about the differences, but also you have to celebrate diversity.
Yeah.
So like, which is it? And you wonder why people go nuts.
Yeah, a great example is Vince McMahon's World Wrestling Federation. And it's, like, think about like peak like American unity in 2002, 2001, where like Eddie Guerrero, like everybody loved that guy.
Yeah.
John Cena put out a rap album. Like everybody was just like everything was on the table, everything was fine. And now you look at WWE and I'm not following it, but I understand that its audience has stopped being like just normal Americans, and now there's a huge like liberal presence in the fans.
Yep.
They really have no tolerance for like the old Vince McMahon style of running. I mean, he's not even at the company
Yeah,
anymore.
so they're called the IWC, the Internet, or was it Internet Wrestling Fans or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like Vince McMahon, if he was going to say like, okay, I want to incorporate a foreign market, not because I care about foreigners necessarily, but because I'm a ruthless like capitalist, we're going to bring in a guy from Japan. Oh, is he going to be just like what? No, he's going to be like Yokozuna. He's going to be a big fat sumo wrestler. We're going to bring in a guy from, Iran.
Yokozuna wasn't Japanese.
Oh, he wasn't?
No.
Okay, so even better. Like, yeah, we're just gonna like
Get a Chinese guy.
We're gonna have Hulk Hogan, rest in peace, come out, and he's gonna be the big American. He's gonna go up against like this Iranian guy, and it's gonna be this huge like clash of worlds. Or an Irish guy, he's gonna come out and literally just be like the.
Yep.
So it was like acknowledging these stereotypes, not because it's like, hey, we don't. I mean, there probably was a little
Iron
bit
Sheik.
of nativism there. There probably was a little bit of nativism there, like in the American audience.
Yeah.
It's like, we hate you, but it was like part of it, and you could acknowledge those differences, and ultimately it was fun, it was entertaining, and it was a good like pressure release valve from what
Yes.
otherwise is gonna be some serious headbutting when you're not allowed to do.
When The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, like when he first came out, wasn't he part of like, what do they call that thing? It was like a Nation of Islam kind of thing.
Yeah,
When he was
probably.
No, seriously, when he was Rocky Maivia, and I can't remember off the top of my head. All the internet fans are going to be mad at me, but yeah, he was like one of the enforcers in this group, and he came out. At Human Events, our executive producer Angelo Fazio, and he's kind of said this publicly. We've mentioned a few times. He was one of Vince McMahon's top writers for like 10 years. So I mean, he was very, very up in that. Used to be the head writer Raw. Did like 3 WrestleManias. Just worked with Vince very closely. And I remember asking him, I was like, "What do you think about the Netflix documentary?" He's like, "I'm not watching that." It was awesome. But I mean, he's I've heard a lot of the tea. I'll just put it that way. I've heard a lot of the tea.
To your point about the way that we relate to each other, you could watch the WWE or WWF, and one of the interesting things is even when like Sergeant Slaughter turned heel, right? Like the guy that was supposed to be perfect American kind of like Americana military guy, and he still turned heel. So it was a situation where anybody could do anything at any time, whether it was it didn't matter what their background.
I'm still
was.
upset about Sergeant Slaughter betraying his country.
Name
How could
dropping.
you
Sorry,
do
I didn't know
that?
we were with ball knowers here. I didn't know that we.
I mean, look, man,
Do that.
Dude, that's
I'm
what
an
I
old
love
guy. I'm
so
an old
much
guy,
about like the heel turn is because there's only so many ways you can do it. Like there's maybe like 2 ways, and you ultimately you want the audience to hate you. So either you betray like a baby face and you out of nowhere, or you come out and you let your ego and you're like, I did this all by my. There's like 2 ways you can do it. And so now I'm seeing AI
the
videos
audience.
where you'll have Martin Luther King come out and he's the WWE champion and he's got a mic and he'll be like, you know what? I don't have any more dreams. And everyone's like, what? He's like, I am the dream now. And they're like, he's turning heel. And the audience is like, and Michael Cole's like, he's turning heel, like he's a bad guy or something like that. It's just so good.
It is. But I do think that it speaks to, the way that we used to be able to relate to each other and the fact that that's kind of gone away because of all the woke schools.
Nation of Domination. I just looked it up. It was called the Nation of Domination, and they were like a Nation of Islam kind of.
There you go.
Look it up. Find a picture. Nation of Domination.
There's also a whole like slew of those WWE where it's like there's one where Rosa Parks comes out jingling keys. It's insane, bro.
When I saw Stephen Hawking from the top rope on his
Stephen
wheelchair, I was
Hawking
like, all right,
was
I can't.
Dude, there was one which I almost feel bad even reiterating, but I laughed at it where a certain basketball player who is unfortunately no longer with us was in the ring and he was talking about like, who gonna stop me? Who gonna stop me? And then a helicopter descending. But dude, the blades weren't even spinning. It was just like gliding down the ramp and everything. And oh my God, here it comes.
All right.
There's something
So back.
There's something to that though. It's sort of that like it's like a low culture kind of It plays on human nature. It plays on human stories. It plays on the hero's journey in many cases, and it plays on these meta narratives that we tell each other that we can sort of see throughout society and throughout the world. And when you play with that, and that gets you into the the idea of kayfabery, right? Or kayfabe. And as a writer for wrestling, they'll say like you have to keep it within the spectrum of the real, like in the sense of, will this betrayal make sense? Will that make sense? If this person wins, would that make sense? And when it doesn't, because the audience gets to vote on this stuff, is what I'm trying to say. So like, even if, we know, okay, like it's written, like, yes, so is like Marvel and Star Wars, people like that too. But like, if you don't like it, if it doesn't get over with the crowd. So like the Montreal Screwjob is a great example of this with Bret Hart and stuff, where people will just be like, that's so obviously fake that the audience just starts, and then so there are stories of like Vince McMahon going in and like editing out the boos and like different master reels and stuff, and sweetening the cheers, or like something doesn't get a cheer, so he just adds it in later.
Let's go. I wish we could do that for IRL. Add in a laugh and post.
Just get rid of Tate. That'd be awesome.
Just empty
All right.
chair.
No, I want Rosa Parks there.
We're going to jump to this story, and I imagine everyone has a lot to say about it. Reddit is suing the Australian government over social media ban for under 16s. So Australia has decided that they're going to protect the kids in Australia, and they're going to say that you have to be 16 years old to access social media. And Reddit has we don't have this article. And Reddit has taken to has a problem with it. So from the Wall Street Journal, they were saying Reddit is taking the Australian government to court to block its social media ban for children under the age of 16, saying the ban infringes on the freedom of political discourse. I imagine most of the guys here kind of feel like it's a good idea to limit the social media diet of young people. And I think it's a good idea too. Now, I think that it should be something that parents do, but I don't think that the government should be doing it. But I do think that, especially considering Australia's government, they're really worried about, right-leaning.
Right.
Because the government is so progressive, so left-leaning.
It goes back to the earlier point. It's like when the left is throwing you a bone, you should be very suspicious of what's going on here.
Yeah.
This has happened in the past, and look, I might get some flack for this, but it's true, is like you would see left-wing cities loosen up gun restrictions from time to time. And they weren't doing that because they were like 2A absolutists. They were doing that so they could get people off of gun charges. Because like if a DA was desperate and he got a guy on a crime and he didn't have anything else, it'd be airtight. He'd chuck a gun charge on there and guarantee put away this guy. And this was obviously before like a big influx of like Soros DAs came in, is they would basically lax gun laws so that way they could so it's the same. What I'm getting at is it's the same idea. It's like when the left throws you a bone on something like this, there's a huge ulterior motive. Not to mention getting sued by Reddit has to be the most embarrassing thing ever. Like, how bad you have to call out to get sued by Reddit. I mean, what are we doing?
I mean, I don't blame them banning kids off Reddit because, why are you on Reddit in the first place, for Reddit karma or whatever. But, like you said with the gun thing, now all of a sudden leftists are pro Second Amendment because they have these, the Pink Pony Club, all these weird groups that are now showing up with guns. And like even Tyler Robinson, maybe, like we're looking into, they're becoming extremists with these and they're starting to embrace this, which is, it's kind of different. They always say the right is always the gun nuts, but, the left has started to embrace these, guns and,
that's
all of a sudden we have terrorism.
Because they name their gun clubs after like guys like John Brown.
Oh, yes.
And I mean, maybe we know the story there. Like they fetishize this guy who was like literally insane, who just went around just like killing normal white people because he thought that would cause a slave uprising.
He was hung just like right down the street here.
Oh yeah.
We are in sacred land.
Yeah. You're on occupied Confederate land. Let's do a land acknowledgement.
There we go. Reagan, I'm not like the biggest Reagan guy, but a lot of stuff that people criticize Reagan for, one of the things, like a lot of 2A absolutists get mad at Reagan because one of the things he did as governor of California was crack down on open carrying. And so if you're just looking at that on paper, you're like, what the frick, Ronald Reagan? We want to be able to open carry. The reason he was doing that is because Black Panthers were showing up like with rifles trying to intimidate like normal, just white American Christians.
Following cops.
Yeah, and Reagan was like, okay, we're probably going to stop that given that like you people have been like shouldn't say you people, given that members of your organization and affiliates have been like killing police officers, trying to incite violence and things of that nature. So, and you saw that too, to your point about the throwing the bone with Zoran Mandani recently when he did that thing where he's talking about deregulating. Dude, all of these people are so desperate to think that we can finally just like talk our way out of this with the left that they're like, the pendulum's swinging back and they've learned that they're going to have to deregulate because of market economics and reading, Henry Hazlitt or whatever. And it's because the deregulation he's referring to as he mentions, is specifically stuff pertaining to fines when you've got, like, I don't know, fecal matter in a kitchen. Things that you would expect from third world people coming over and trying to exist in civilization for the first time. And they just wouldn't think to do stuff like that, like maintain clean standards, not have, child labor. And so the American government would come in, the New York City government would be like, okay, well, you're probably gonna have to, like, pay a fine for that. And so when he's deregulating, removing red tape, it's not because he's like some pro-market, like, based capitalist or whatever. It's specifically because he's trying to help these people, these foreigners in New York who elected him, because native-born New Yorkers went for Cuomo. It was only the foreign population that installed Mamdani into becoming mayor. And so I tried to explain that to people. They're getting very angry with me. I was like, you need to be 200 IQ enough to understand that in this instance, deregulation is actually Marxist.
Yeah, well, there's like, it's people that I know and respect, and I think they're really smart people. They're desperate to, like, intellectualize what's happening with Mamdani. They're like, oh, this is like wholesome Chungus populism. And it's like, they're desperately trying to, like, retcon what is obviously just an instance of third worldism that's come to this country. And yeah, they're trying to backfill it and be like, no, he's actually speaking about, like, housing, and, like, he's really, like, prying deep into these concerns that New Yorkers have. I'm like, the New Yorker you have in your head is in Florida right now. He left like 10 years ago. What we're dealing with is an entirely different composition of people. The entire half of Queens is foreign born. When Trump was growing up there, it was certainly not the case, and by the way, Trump's keenly aware of that. But yeah, this like trying to intellectualize Mamdani when it's very straightforward what he's doing. This is just how politics is conducted in his homeland of Uganda. Like that the wholesome Chungus populism stuff needs to stop.
Well, so when I confronted Mamdani in the White House in the Oval Office, that's and I knew that I would get a question, or at least have the opportunity to kind of get a question in. And I knew he was coming in, and I was actually at the White House for a totally separate thing, but it was on the same day. And then Mamdani showed up early, and it was funny because Trump was actually like, he's like, oh, he made a big mistake. You don't show up early, because he's like sitting in the lobby for the Oval. And he goes, should I let him in? Should I let him in? I said, make him sweat, Mr. President.
He's out in the hallway, stooped over a bowl, eating with his hands.
Yeah. Well, no. So I actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because my original thought was that I wasn't going to ask him a question. Originally, I was like, I don't want to give him a question. I looked around, I was like, Danny, you guys have a fork? And then, like, what do you mean? I was like, and I said, because I just want to take a fork. Give me a plastic fork. What are you going to do? And I was like, well, I just want to walk over and hand it to him. and then the answer, of course, I got was like, I don't think you're allowed to do that. Bring things like that into the Oval Office. But well, no, it's for, okay, fine. So I didn't. So I think, okay. So I'm thinking about this. Okay, I've got a question. I've got maybe only a chance to get one question in. And what is it? And because I wanted to specifically pierce this, like, stupid idea that people have that he's trying to do something to help the city. He's not trying to help the city. He's trying to help his people. And he's doing that by specifically targeting one group of people that he has designated as the enemy class, the kulaks, that he wants to then take what they have built and give it to others. And it's so key, by the way, that he said white neighborhoods. And that's why I brought that up to him. I said, these are your words. No, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes, he denies it. Like it's like denying Jesus 3 times. Like he denies it 3 times and says, "No, I didn't. No, I didn't know. It's your words. Why'd you say that?" Well, that was those were words of description, not words of intent. So you intend to tax the neighborhoods you described as white more. Like, how does that change? And he was getting he was like kind of quivering. His legs were bouncing, which you're not allowed to do here. There's all these signs. Tim has all these signs around that say, "Do not bounce your legs."
Logan Hall rules.
Logan, man, what an anti-patriot.
Yeah,
and
true. So true.
Yeah. Patriotism is lacking, you traitor. And so I square up on this, and you could see that nobody had ever really challenged him on this topic before. And, I don't know why anyone in New York hadn't tried to actually just call him out on this to his face. And you've got to do that, though, when you call out somebody. Don't let them play these linguistic games. Just stick on the point. You said this. Why did you say this? Why? I didn't make a racial. You brought up race.
Yeah.
Why did you say white people? Because what he's doing, and that's where he slipped up. Because to John's point, all of this is done with a wink and a nod to, and you saw it, of course, in his victory speech as well. And I mentioned it. I said, you didn't thank white people, you didn't thank Christians, you didn't say the word America once, but we hear, what was it, like the Bangladeshi cab drivers and the abuelas, and he's very clear. He's very clear. These are my constituents, right? The South Asians, the immigrants, the non-New Yorkers. These are my constituents, and I will take the things that the actual New Yorkers have made and built and constructed for all these years, and I will give it to you. And it's key, by the way, and I'll just end on this, that he said the white neighborhoods. Notice he didn't necessarily say the rich.
Yeah.
You notice that? He didn't say it like a quote unquote like traditional Marxist would.
Right.
That's how you know he's a cultural Marxist.
Well, that's what he's thinking. In his head, he's not thinking of the Upper East Side. He's thinking of like Maspeth. He's thinking of Staten Island, like
Staten
actually
Island,
just like
yep.
normal middle class white people. Because he said in his own words in college that he resents white people because he was rejected by white women growing up.
Yep.
He couldn't pull any white women. So
Literally
now he's like going to just take it out on these like middle class Irish people in Maspeth. They're going to be on the receiving end of this resentment. And then to your point, like where you can just read them their words. I mean, this happened the other day. If you go watch Jasmine Crockett was on Jake Tapper's show, and Jake Tapper didn't press her. All he did was just read her quote where she was basically saying that Hispanics and black people that voted for Trump in Texas were slaves. And he literally read her quote verbatim, and she's like, that's not what I was saying at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
But what would
It's,
you
like,
say
ridiculous.
if you had said that?
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
I know. So it's just like the new strategy is just read these people's words back to them and then just watch them quiver. And it's really frustrating because at the point, the stage that the left is at, I don't even know if that really even works anymore. I mean, like legitimately, they just it's so over.
Well, it doesn't work on them, but what you can hopefully do is try to find people in the middle who may be kind of trapped up in this like pretzel logic that John's talking about of no, it's really good actually that our enemies are winning, and you just say to them, no, it's very clear what he's doing. This isn't some deregulation like based libertarian kind of thing. It's still just gay race Marxism, gay race communism over and over and over. And no, to your point, and the other people who have this take like, oh, Mondami's going to be so bad that like it's going to change people's minds and they'll rise up. It's like, when does that happen exactly? Like when does that happen? When did the people just rise up on their own? Because
Doyle's point,
I've never seen it.
This time last year I was in South Africa. I saw it firsthand. Like the people there know exactly what's going on. Everyone there's radicalized. Everyone there is awake. It's just like once power is stripped away from you and they cut off your avenues to power, it's over.
No,
Like
that's why
over.
Elon is so good on a lot of these issues because he's already lost a country.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's never come out and just said it, but you can tell that's why he fights so hard against this stuff.
He's come close.
But not like he's called out the South African government plenty of times, but I don't know if he's ever just specifically said this, what we did was wrong, right? When we turned the country over and wrote wokeism and DEI and critical race theory into when Bill Clinton went with Nelson Mandela and wrote critical race theory into the Constitution of South Africa, it destroyed our country.
Yep.
So true.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to, I think we've got this piece here. We're going to bring up this story here from the Daily Mail, an exclusive. Charlie Kirk shooting suspect twisted courtroom remarks revealed. From the Daily Mail, the Utah man accused of murdering Charlie Kirk made a series of upsetting remarks about the late conservative and his family, as well as his own mental health and loved ones during his first in-person court hearing. Tyler Robinson, 22, told attorney Catherine Nestor, "I think about the shooting daily, every morning, all the time." Forensic lip-reading expert Nicole Hickling revealed after watching footage filmed at Thursday's proceedings in Provo, Utah. I can imagine that Jack has the most to say about this, but before we jump to Jack, it's my sense that this guy, if he is the actual murderer, he's behaving as if he's totally remorseless.
I mean, I would too if you have half the people that want him on trial, if even Charlie's fans are divided now after the whole Candace thing, his chances at a mistrial or hell even getting off are pretty high right now. I mean, he could potentially have jurors on the trial that are like, I don't know if he even did it too. You would think conservatives would have them, be the most ardent to put him behind bars for life, but that's not even true. I mean, I've seen a poll online, Twitter, where someone's asking, I think it was you, Jack, who asked, who do you think killed Charlie Kirk? There was
No, I didn't. I've talked about it, but I didn't do the poll. No.
Oh, gotcha. Well, it was somewhere online. Someone asked it, and it was asking, was it Tyler Robinson or was it someone else? And it was split 50-50. And, if I was Tyler Robinson, I'd be smiling too, because his chances of getting away from, with, the shooting of the century right now are, remarkably high. So.
Well, so let's just go and Phil, do you want to actually read the piece there, because there's that video that went viral, I think yesterday, of
Tyler in the
Tyler. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, but just smirking, and some people said he was laughing. I would say grinning is probably a better word, but yeah, smirking, grinning, looking smug, just looking really, really smug, and I said, well, no wonder they want to pull the cameras out, because they can't stop their defendant, their client, from smirking and cracking up and cracking jokes while, there's a guy who's not going to be going home to his family on Christmas, and his little children and his wife, and you're sitting in the courtroom just laughing it up with your lawyers. Of course they want the cameras off. That's why they're pulling that. But then, I don't know, Phil, if you wanted to read that line. So I guess Daily Mail hired a lip reader.
Yep.
And the lip reader said that according to her, she believes this is what he was saying to his attorney.
I think about the shooting daily, every morning, all the time. The expert, Nicole Hickling, said she watched the footage and that's what she saw Tyler saying. I mean, look, if this is the guy, which it's I think that they probably got the right guy. He turned himself in, and there is an abundance of evidence that points to him. Okay. And if it is, he's not doing himself any favors. I mean, even down to, Jack, you pointed this out, even down to the colors that he was wearing, the first day, the tie color. If you're unfamiliar, it's the same color as the trans flag.
I have it right here.
The transgender boyfriend turned him in or something. It was
no, the parents.
His parents
The
did.
parents did.
Okay, I remember there were rumors when it first happened that the transgender partner turned him in, and I remember tweeting something.
It was cooperation about.
Yeah, it's
from the boyfriend.
Imagine you see what happens with Luigi Maggione, and you think that you're gonna have that same kind of fangirl energy or something, and then your transgender partner turns you in, and it's dude, how can you be surprised that Z switched up on you when Z switched up on himself first? Real. So
well, and if you actually, there's another line on there where it says, the forensic lip reading expert also said, so he had a wife.
Yeah, the Utah man accused of murdering Charlie Kirk made a series of upsetting remarks about the late conservative and his family, as well as his own mental health and loved ones during his first in-person court hearing. Tyler Robinson, 22, told attorney Catherine Nestor, I think about the shooting daily, every morning, all the time. Forensic lip reading expert Nicola Hickling revealed after watching footage filmed at Thursday's proceeding in Provo, Utah. So he had a wife, Robinson was then filmed saying, in reference to 31-year-old Kirk's widow, Erica, 37.
So can all right, before I even comment on this, does that sound like something a normal person would be saying in court to their lawyer? Can anyone actually think that a lawyer would sit there and give their client advice, say, hey, make sure you talk about the shooting when we're sitting there, and definitely talk about his wife? You would probably sit there, and I'm not a defense attorney, and I don't think any of us are lawyers, but you would just think basic common sense would be sit there, don't show any emotion, look serious, be respectful, be respectful to the judge, respectful of the process. And he's babbling. He's just babbling about, again, if this is, we kept going. Oh, wait, I hadn't even seen this part.
Hickling, who runs lip reader.
You know what I mean? He's babbling like someone who is just totally radicalized.
Yeah. Right. Hickling, who runs Lip Reader, told the Daily Mail that Robinson's reflections turned inward and that he gestured lightly as if trying to express exhaustion. Nestor's responses to Robinson, accused of shooting Kirk dead in Orem, Utah in September, were not visible, but Robinson continued to bare his soul to her. Just smoking a lot, not sleeping at night. It's driving me mental, he said, according to Hakeling. Unfortunately, it's doing my head in. I'm not good for anything. I mean, I'm not particularly swayed by any kind of stress that he's under. Again, he was turned in by his parents.
And he was so he's talking about his mother too.
Right here, actually.
Next, Robinson began speaking about his mother, Amber Robinson. My mother goes away to see friends, to be away from the media, which I think makes sense. After another back and forth, he then said, what I would like to do is make it as easy as possible by answering all of their questions so there's no comeback. It is unclear about what comeback Robinson was referring to.
Comeback.
It goes on. He and Nestor then discussed procedural issues, which offered no further insight into the shooting, Robinson's state of mind, or his questions about Charlie and Erica Kirk. Thursday's appearance was the first time Robinson was seen in person after making previous court appearances via video or audio feed from jail. As he entered the courtroom, he smiled at the people sitting in a row reserved for family, where his mother teared up and wiped her eyes with a tissue. Robinson's father, Matt, was the one who handed him in to the authorities after recognizing his son in surveillance footage shared from the assassination that shocked the world. Robinson's legal team in the Utah County Sheriff's Office have asked Judge Tony Graff to ban cameras in the courtroom. Shortly after proceedings started, Judge Graff ordered all press and public to leave the room. The defense asked the judge to allow Robinson's parents to stay, which was quickly denied. Graff had already made allowances to protect Robinson's presumption of innocence before the trial, agreeing that the case has drawn extraordinary public attention. The judge held a closed hearing on October 24th in which attorneys discussed Robinson's courtroom attire and security protocols. Under a subsequent ruling by the judge, the suspect is allowed to wear street clothes in court during his preliminary pretrial hearings, but must be restrained for security. Graff also prohibited media from filming or photographing his restraints after his attorneys argued images of him shackled and in jail could prejudice the jurors. Michael Judge, an attorney for the Media Coalition, has urged Graff to let news organizations weigh in on any future requests for closed hearings or other limitations. The media presence at Utah hearings is already limited, with judges often designating one photographer and one videographer to document a hearing and share their images with other news organizations. Additional journalists can typically attend to listen and take notes, as can members of the public. Judd wrote in recent filings that an open court safeguards the integrity of the fact-finding process while fostering public confidence in judicial proceedings.
All right, so just and of course, I think all of us here want cameras, no question.
Yeah.
We don't want to impede on the proceedings, but we want the proceedings to be full. My analysis, just looking at reading this for the first time and hearing this for the first time, they've completely lost control of their client. They have no control over this guy, his actions, his statements whatsoever. There's no world where you'd want someone talking like that at a trial. I mean, I remember Derek Chauvin's trial, who I believe was innocent, certainly of murder, that he doesn't really speak, and then Kyle Rittenhouse, same idea. He doesn't speak until he goes on the stand. But this guy he's just babbling. He's just, it's diarrhea of the mouth. And it almost sounds like that line where he's talking about the comeback, right? I want to answer all their questions so there's no comeback. And this is the way I read it. You guys might have a different opinion, but it sounds to me like he wants to talk to the media, right? He's saying it in the context of my mom's trying to get away from the media, so maybe I can go and talk to them and answer all their questions so they don't come back on my mom. And let him. Just let him.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. No, let's hear it. Let's hear it up. Let's hear it up. Let's hear it. Let's hear every word, because he's sitting there smiling, laughing, grinning, and again, that he's talking about, oh, what's my mom going to be up to? It's like, well, I know a guy who's not going to be with his family this Christmas. I know a guy who's not going to be. I know two kids that aren't going to be with their dad this Christmas. For Charlie's son, this is it's his second Christmas. He only had one Christmas his entire life with his dad. One. Which, and at an age that, he's not going to remember. There's going to be photos. He won't remember that. And their daughter, I mean, hopefully she does maintain some actual memories of their father beyond.
She's 3, right?
Yeah. So beyond the, photos and images, and, I'm sure obviously we'll all tell them stories and be there, but my God. So, and to think that there are people who, okay. Sorry, looking at this picture of him smiling really bothers me. And I know, yeah. If your thesis is that this guy was a patsy and he's been wrongfully accused, all right, how do you fit that with all of this? How do you fit that with this? How? Just explain to me that. How does that make any sense? And by the way, they said his mom's right there. So if his mom's right there, the media's right there. She doesn't say anything to them. She doesn't say, my son is innocent. What mom doesn't say my son is innocent?
Yeah.
Just walk me through that.
You imagine
walk me
she'd
through
be
that.
hollering at, even like just leaving the courtroom.
Make it make sense.
He's innocent or what have you. Yeah.
Somewhat, yeah. Well, and when she left the courtroom, because Brian Etten, who works for News Nation, who's a fantastic, he's does a lot of these crime cases. He did Brian Kohberger, similar situation. And Brian Kohberger, by the way, physiognomy identical, by the way, physiognomy check never fails, and that. At one point, they went to speak. So it was the lawyers and the judge were getting into these motions regarding the cameras. And so everybody had to leave the courtroom, and that included his family. They said, can the family stay? The judge said, no, I just want it to be, the legal teams. Okay. So the mom's out there in the hallway with Brian Etten, with media. They're all there for hours. And she doesn't once say, my son's innocent?
Yep.
Come on. Just really? Like, really? Like, we're really supposed to believe that this guy who's sitting there laughing, smug, smiling, coking and joking, having a good time is wrongfully accused?
He's entered a plea of not guilty, correct?
No, not yet. He hasn't been arraigned.
Okay.
No, he has not. He has yet to actually been arraigned. This is not even pre-trial. This is pre-arraignment.
Okay.
So I believe the way the Utah works, I totally could be getting this wrong, but I believe there's a presumption of that. But even this is just all preliminary because it is a capital case, and in a capital case, there are so many steps you have to go through, and it's a lot slower. It's not like TV, drama.
They were scheduling things out to June of next year, if I understand.
Yeah, and I think the next hearing isn't for 2 months. Wow. So it'll be February 3rd is, if I remember correctly, when we're actually going to hear on this question of whether or not there'll be cameras. And again, so this is what we have to go off of. This lip reader, and he's very close to the camera, by the way. So this isn't like some pseudoscience where he's like, all the way across the room and you're like zooming in and pixelating. He's right next to the camera, and the judge actually called that out and made them move the camera because it was so close. But yes, you could see what he's saying. And I actually was trying to kind of read his lips a little bit too. And so here's the professional lip reader saying all this. I think about the shooting every day. So do I. Yeah, so do I.
Yeah. I'm not sure that they're, does anyone else have anything to add? I mean, this is.
But I mean, here's I guess the question, and I'm a little emotional about this, but it's like, how do you fit this with the idea that this guy is like totally like set up and he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger and all this? Like, how does that? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
You would just choose to believe that it's all kayfabe and he's out there giggling on direct orders from his handlers, because then people like us are like, wait, he's giggling like he got away with something. And then you can do this like mental gymnastics where you're like, yeah, but it's because he's supposed to do this, because if I choose to believe this, it makes it all so much more entertaining. And it's just like completely selfish. I mean, you're discounting not only a guy's entire like body of work, but a body of work that he died doing. Further, that he died doing specifically for you. Yep. And people who are claiming to be on the right and who believe in these things are willing to set all of that aside because they personally find it more entertaining to think that something is afoot. Yep. There's some kind of op, which again, like they're, and this is, we were talking about this upstairs actually, how dishonest that framing is. Again, with this, like, I have to perpetually believe I'm, a revolutionary or whatever. You are convincing yourself that it is not the most popular thing in the world right now to celebrate this guy's assassination and to deny, more importantly, that it was a leftist who did it. You're not going to get censored for that. In fact, you'll be platformed on all the mainstream platforms. You can do epic collabs with other influencers to just spread this pollution out there, because what the left would like more than anything, they're not going to tell you that you have to, necessarily celebrate the assassination, but they will tell you that you can't say it was a leftist. You can say it was whoever you want, but do not allow for that ire to be directed at the leftist political project.
Yeah, immediately upon hearing that Tyler had family that were conservative, then the narrative online became, well, his parents were this, so of course he wasn't on the left. Of course he didn't believe these things. He was a MAGA guy, and that's still I've seen polls that's still very popular among fairly normal people. They think, oh no, he wasn't a leftist. He was just a disturbed kid, or he was actually a conservative, etc. And that kind of poisoning the well that the left has managed to do.
Sure.
They hear that and they amplify these ideas. They amplify this when, if you talk to people around him, Tyler, they would say that he was definitely a leftist. He was a left-leaning guy.
Yeah.
There were messages prior to Charlie's murder that were talking about Charlie being murdered on that day. So the preponderance of evidence is that he was a left-leaning guy, and that he was dating a trans guy,
Yep.
and that this is based on politics, based on the fact that Charlie disapproved of his lifestyle, and so he felt the need to violently react to that.
And that's why I hate it, because they think that they're being so edgy because they're rejecting the narrative of like the FBI or whatever. But you're not being edgy because you don't want the fight. You want to make it a conversation about, oh, he's a disturbed kid, which is to say, let's talk about mental health. Disturbed kids do a lot of stuff. They torment animals. They do whatever. A political assassination is not the first thing I would expect from a disturbed kid. Is he disturbed? Like, clearly, yes. But this is specifically political in context. Yeah. And it's because he responds to social incentives that are created by the media, whether that's, the mainstream media or, your alt media streamers who spend decades or years just inciting this kind of violence specifically against normal conservative activists. So, yeah, it is actually like a left versus right thing, and you're not smarter, you're not being more honest by like polluting that. And that's why I hate so much of the conspiracy theorizing. And I don't use that word, by the way, as a pejorative, the way the left says, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. I mean, like, literally, the whole idea with talking about conspiracy theories is that it's supposed to take the shackles off, and we can all finally be more honest, and we can understand the truth more accurately, and we can maybe make some progress. But actually, all that's happened is it's completely like ruined people's ability to think about things accurately, and now everybody is more dishonest, and they lie, and they're more treacherous than ever.
Yeah.
But they say that I'm just asking questions. I'm pursuing the truth.
But when you push back on some of this stuff, like, and by the way, I get it, right? I get it. Why suddenly believe the government after all these years? Sure, fine, okay. But you don't have to do that to just look at evidence and actually follow the inherent logic of a case. So we know that there were specific phrases etched onto these bullets.
Yep.
Yes.
What do they refer to? Oh, look, the gay community, the trans community, the furry community. Funny how the LGBT guys don't call this, great moments in LGBT history. You don't see. Yes, Charlie was shot by a gay guy, so nobody seems to frame it that way at all. Yet we know he was in a homosexual relationship, and nobody challenges this. Yeah. So we know that, and yet no one ever frames it. But so they're left wing, they're homosexual, and obviously involves trans. And beyond that, though, when you start getting into just the basic evidence that we already know, people say, oh, well, he hated guns, right? See, this is where the magical thinking goes beyond just, well, what if this happened? It's not just asking questions, because you're introducing facts that either aren't in evidence or facts that just aren't true. You're saying, well, I heard he hated guns, but there's pictures of him shooting guns his entire life. Yeah. There's reporting from his coworkers that he used to say, I'm a great shot. I love shooting at long range. I can shoot at long range. So you're just going to discount all that because that hurts your narrative. Again, that's the magical thinking. The biggest one for me on all of this, right? Well, two biggest ones. And the biggest one is his parents. I keep coming back to that. What parent would turn their kids in and pick up that phone if they didn't think they had to? Yeah. And everybody wants to say, oh, Fed slop, Fed narrative, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but it wasn't the feds that caught him. Yeah. In fact, the feds looked really bad because they announced a wrongful arrest, and this guy was running around screaming that he was the real shooter, but he wasn't. And then they looked really bad. And I remember all this because obviously I was very close to it at the time that Trump calls in Cash and Dan and says, you need to get out there and figure this out and unscrew this situation. So they go out there and then they put out the pictures, and then it's the parents who identify their son. Then they look at the gun and they say, wait a minute, isn't that grandpa's gun that we gave to Tyler? And I believe if you read the affidavit, the father calls or texts the son and says, can you send me a picture of grandpa's gun right now? Send me because because he had already known that it had been, it had been captured. So that was sort of like his check on it. Again, so that's just the facts. And you would have to ignore all of that or assume somehow, to John's point, that all of these people are in on it. Right. All like the parents, the mom, the brother. And for some reason, they never break character for, again, like because of these mysterious forces that seem to be surrounding them. Or it's just a gay communist.
Yeah. Well, and also like his classmates have to be on it who gave statements to the press literally right after the shooting saying, his politics did not mesh with his family's. They had to be like it's just super. And this is to John's point, it's this like LARPing, it's like shadow boxing these powerful institutions that really are shells of what they used to be in many ways, where they're like attributing it to like the French government and the Israelis. It's literally shadow boxing because it's like the only thing that's clearly indicated if you really wanted to threaten power would be directly addressing the issue that trans people are increasingly violent. That's actually a threat. Because after the shooting, when everybody in the GOP was focused for like 5 days, everyone on the left was coming out like, no, we denounce all political violence, but like this is separate, this, that, and the other. Like they felt the heat coming down their necks. And then as soon as, everybody comes unglued and starts spurging, starts blaming everybody else that was not involved whatsoever, you see it. It's just LARP, it's shadow boxing.
I'll even add, and I don't know if it's done on the show much, but Nick Fuentes had a great point about the gun. Yes. And he was saying, so, all right, let me just get this straight, that if the FBI planted all of these things, but Charlie wasn't actually shot with a 30-06, why would they leave a different gun in the woods than the actual caliber of the gun that shot him? If they're so super powerful, or Mossad or whoever it was, if they're so super powerful, why did they get the caliber of the gun wrong? Because we knew about the caliber of the bullet in Charlie, and we knew about, then we got the rifle that was found. So if you get what I'm saying, if they were lying about one, why wouldn't they also lie about the other?
Why would they have public flight logs? Like what is this, amateur hour from these like shadowy figures? Like they're just like, yeah, we're gonna get a jet and escape, but make sure it's on flight radar. Make sure it's still on. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. What are we doing here?
So I want to bring this up in this context because I think that it's related. Governor Newsom was doing an interview with Ezra Klein, and he specifically said, "I want to see trans kids. There's no governor that's done more pro-trans legislation than I have." Listen, there is no such thing as a trans kid. Okay, I don't care what anyone says. There is no such thing as a trans child. That is just like there is no such thing that's a kid that's also a truck. Okay, it just doesn't exist. But we'll go ahead and listen to this.
So we didn't get into trans sports. That's an issue no one wants to hear about because 80% of the people listening disagree with my position on this. But it comes from my heart, not just my head. It wasn't a political evolution. It was
position being that
I don't think it's I want to see trans kids. I have a trans godson. There's no governor that's done more pro-trans legislation than I have, and no one has been a stronger advocate for the LGBTQ community. So we didn't get.
That's just child abuse, and I don't care that people think that I'm sure that I'll catch flack from the left for saying that, but that's pure child abuse, right? Like there's no such thing as a trans child. Like you can have your opinions about transgender adults, but trans kids is a total fabrication. And it's because these children are confused and their parents are pushing the stuff on their kids.
Yeah, obviously. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, right, no one, like we should get back to actual basics on this and stop and like just deny the frame completely. No one can actually turn themselves into another gender. It's not possible. It's biologically impossible to do that.
Yeah.
We're all guys around here, and guess what? Our genetic code is male, which means that it will always be male. So you can make these cosmetic changes, and I think there's a new form of surgery that
we're talking about. Someone was talking on Twitter about having their pelvis reshaped in order to go from a masculine skeleton to a feminine skeleton.
So this is like the Turkish heightening,
and to that point,
pelvis
right? People on the left and people that are LGBTQ advocates, they will say that men and women are the same, and then you'll reply, well, an archaeologist is going to look at your bones in 1,000 years, and they're going to know if you were a man or a woman, and they will deny it. They will say, no, you're wrong. They can't, but there are people out there that are going and saying, I'm going to have my skeleton adjusted in order to be more feminine.
But again, it's still cosmetic because you could still pull that person. So, by the way, the reason they're talking about that is because there's like a meme about this, right? That you could still pull someone's skeleton and you can tell the gender. Well, guess what? Even if you get your pelvis elongated, whatever you're talking,
Widened or whatever.
yeah, even if you get your pelvis restructured, guess what? You could still pull the bone marrow. And guess what? From the bone marrow, we can tell your chromosomes. And we can see the XY. And guess what? It's still there.
That would
still
almost
not
be
a woman.
worse. Because like if the archaeologist 1,000 years from now like sees your skeleton, he knows that like you were a male, but he didn't know that you were like an insane male. But then if you have the surgery, he's like, as a male, it's worse actually.
Yeah. It's way worse than we thought.
Wait, imagine if we found one of those. Imagine if we found one of those now. It'd be like, oh my gosh, what kind of battle was this person in?
It's gonna do scarring on the skeleton.
Yeah.
Museum for all history, like your skeleton's up there in a museum, and you're just like gay male.
They're gonna dig it up and be like, the Trump regime was brutal. They were breaking men's pelvises in half. They were just barbarians.
Ah, yes, a form of torture.
Yeah.
There's that one Navy SEAL who was like, he was, putting power into the Trump admin, was making these like guys in his concubine, and he was widening their hips. Yeah.
Dude, it's gonna be like, no, they're gonna like those TikToks where the welders are like judging other guys' welds. They're gonna be looking at like, that weld is terrible, dude. I would have never stitched a pelvis together like that. Like, what are we doing?
The hip to waist ratio is not quite at the 0.67.
That clavicle guy comes out.
Oh,
But
no.
Oh no.
I do want to
Wait. Up high, down low, in heaven. 6, 7.
So
go throw
I
up.
do want to.
I have kids.
Listen. I want to point out though.
My 5-year-old taught me that.
Really?
Yeah, my 5-year-old. That's
Listen,
how bad it
I
is.
want to point out
War,
Gavin
man.
Newsom
really
is leading in the polls
Yeah.
for the Democratic election. Now, granted, I mean,
saw that on
obviously,
Kalshi.
it's super far out. I understand it, and a lot of things will change. And usually, the person that's leading this far out isn't actually the person that gets the nomination. But the point remains: this stuff is still alive and well on the left. People that say that the midterms don't matter and elections don't change anything and nothing ever changes, etc., they are wrong. Okay, and if you want to bring that up. By Kalshi, it looks exceedingly likely right now. Again, I know it's early and things change, and this will change as well. But Gavin Newsom is in the lead to be the Democrat nominee. And if he becomes president, all of the bad things that people hated about the Biden administration, all of the LGBT stuff that will return tenfold. The guy is saying that he wants to see trans children when there are no such thing as trans children. Okay? This guy, you don't want this guy to be the president. We don't want Democrats to be in power. We don't want this kind of insanity to come back. This is one of the reasons why the Democrats lost. Like, yes, of course, it's an economic issue. Those kind of things matter a lot. But these kind of cultural issues, going after kids, the idea that if you and your wife break up and your wife's like, no, my kid's trans and I'm going to run to California and have
younger,
and have genital mutilation that's paid for by the state. Like, that's a reality.
So I actually know someone in real life who is getting divorced over politics, and it was sort of like they were both. I'm trying to say this without, revealing anything, but like sort of like they were both on the left before, but then he became more on the right, and then she just can't handle that. They have 3 kids, and that's the very first thing I said is you got to be careful with all this gender stuff because she will try to take your little boy and trans him to get back at you. She will.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. It's a real.
I think it's likely.
Well, I mean,
Always the little boys.
yeah, yeah.
Why is it always boys?
They say,
I don't think TOS will allow that one.
Well, if I understand correctly, I think that that actually women do more transitioning than boys, or girls transition more often than boys.
No, but I'm saying when it's moms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah. But again, John, I was saying, like, this guy is the guy that's in the lead, and if the Democrats get back into power, for all the people that say the midterms don't matter, that say that, elections don't change anything, et cetera, if this guy becomes the president, all of the bad things that you saw about the LGBT stuff from the White House, like dudes pulling out fake boobs on the White House lawn, like that stuff will come back with a vengeance.
Yeah. In my old age, I don't really, I know that I'm not going to, on my deathbed, wish that I'd spent more time conversing with the retarded. And so I've really tried to give myself permission to just like not engage with people who are fundamentally unserious. And if you didn't get it, that this is like a real thing, like up until the Kirk assassination, and now you get it, like that's fine. I don't hold grudges. But if you still like don't get it, then you're just like, you're off the team, man. And you saw this a lot with like the Gavin Newsom thing where because, JD Vance has an Indian wife. And so people were saying very seriously that like we need Gavin Newsom to be president because look at his beautiful family.
I saw this.
Unreal.
You're pro-family. You're pro-Gavin Newsom. This is your Gavin Newsom administration, right?
Yeah.
Literally convincing through propaganda organs, be that social media, mainstream media, influencers, convincing the minds of convincing young children that they are like not the gender that they actually are. Their parents are against them. They're evil. The state should come in and confiscate the. That's your guy. Because what? Because dude, wouldn't it be funny if because Gavin Newsom's a Democrat, I'm so edgy for wanting to support Democrats. This is a real thing. This obviously has real consequences. We're not playing with action figures, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like a fundamentally unserious thing. He's obviously like evil. And again, Democrat, like this is their guy, right? The only talent they have insofar as he's talent, that's their guy. This is not a party of people who are even capable of being accidentally moral or correct on one issue. Like this is how they exist. That's the kind of guy who ascends in their ranks. Anybody who would have done right is outcast.
Yeah, and if it's not him, what?
I think everything is an op.
No, I know, but I mean, no, I'm just gonna pick your brain. Do you think it's an op to target, the sort of like elements of the right to pull their support away from JD Vance?
Absolutely, yeah.
And say, oh, look, actually Gavin Newsom, his family is all white.
Yeah.
And, this is what you should be for, see, he's got white children and therefore you should be for him. And like, do you actually think there are people that are pushing that who, maybe not work directly for Newsom, but have that intention?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's like what we talked about, earlier with how do you get young men to not support the Trump-Vance political project?
That's what I was thinking.
You push them over the skis and you say, it's not based enough for you because Vance is married to an Indian woman and XYZ. And it's like, okay, dude. And half these guys too, they claim to be Catholic. So it's like, okay, he's raising the kids Catholic. We're all one under God. Like, so what is the issue? And then the other half are like not even white themselves. I have like Pakistanis who are like JD Vance made an. So I'm like, what? His kids are going to be more Anglo than you. So like, what's the problem?
I think this is one of the problems with totalizing white identitarianism, because if you're just a white identitarian and you look at JD Vance with his mixed race kids and you look at Gavin Newsom, then the choice would be, well, Gavin Newsom is white, so he must think like me. But it doesn't matter because obviously Gavin Newsom will allow your wife to take your son into California and mutilate him.
But I would even say to that, who do you think is going to have better policies for your people? If this is what you want, Gavin Newsom's entire career has been anti-white. Gavin Newsom's entire policy, his entire governance, whether it's in San Francisco where he was mayor, whether it's in statewide where he's governor, and now that he's kind of on the national stage, he's obviously anti-white. He says it all the time. He says these things all the time. And his policies would be as well. So when we're talking about someone for elected office, you want someone whose policies are going to be the ones that you support and that benefit you and benefit your agenda and your side.
And it's proof that like these movements are just purely like aesthetic based and there's no actual serious strategy. There's no serious direction in moving, as you say all the time, moving the football down the field. It's purely aesthetics. And then so leftists can capitalize on that and be like, see, doesn't he match your like Kino aesthetic posting? Yeah. It's like, it's so ridiculous. And then beyond that, like the attacks on his wife don't even make any sense. Cause it's like, again, a lot of these guys are like supposedly like trad cast. And it's like, what do you want him to do? Like divorce his wife? Is that is like, what is the
ask them
solution?
about their girlfriend or significant other, and it'll be something
so
else.
true.
And it's like to Poso's point earlier, how it's actually worse than that in the sense that they're not only just like doing this mental gymnastics, they're denying reality because the the argument is like, well, and this is so simple. I wish that I were like 80 IQ so I could be like, yo, this is tough. It's like literally the argument is, okay, well, how can we expect JD Vance to be against H-1Bs if his wife is Indian? Because he's against H-1Bs. Yeah. Everything he says is against that. He's like one of our best guys on that. Yeah, so he's been perfect on that issue since the issue. He's known about that and fought for that before you even knew about it because it was put into your head, which is a sandbox for the CIA. So he's perfect on that issue. He's our guy. And it's like, but what if one day he's not our guy? Because, and it's like, okay, you're just an idiot. Like,
literally.
You need to, I've been doing this thing recently on Twitter. I've been DMing people links to DraftKings gift cards. I feel bad for them because they are fundamentally normies who are now running like a based OS on their normie hardware, and it's confusing them. And it's actually cruel. You have to treat these people like they're animals who wandered off the reservation, and now they're like in politics and everything is very confusing to them, and there's all these ideas. They were never meant to have to understand these things. They would be better off if they were sports betting.
Yeah, I know.
If they were, one of these like sports. So I'm sending them gift card. I'm like, here, I'm trying to get you home. Okay.
I know. That's why like Trump needs to make it a national imperative to like improve the quality of the NFL. Because as the NFL has gotten worse, these guys are now like acting like they're politicos, and it's ruining everything. It's like just improve the product, get rid of the kickoff rule, so they can just go back to watching like the Cowboys.
Dude, they're always just like, the bread and circuses are meant to distract us. You are always going to be distracted, and it would be better for you if it were the bread and circuses rather than like things that actually matter.
So we can focus on governing. Yeah,
Asmund Gold has made a great point. There are some people that are born just to make big rocks into smaller rocks.
Yeah,
that's their station in life. That's what they should do. That's all they're going to be able to do. And I think that there's a lot of people that those people that are born to make big rocks into little rocks, they shouldn't be allowed to vote.
Phil, are you denying the tabula rasa right now? Are you denying the blank slate?
Oh yeah. The blank. I reject the idea that there is a thing called gender. You are either male or you are female. Gender is like your sex spirit. Like it's all just BS. Like it to me, I totally reject the idea of gender. You're a man or you're a woman. You are male or you are female. Gender was created by some dude that just wanted to diddle kids.
You want to know what's funny? So I was
John Money.
I was out to dinner one time with a young lady about 5 or 6 years ago, and she was like one of these like leftist,
condolences.
And I literally asked her like, what do you mean? Because she was talking about like why she doesn't believe in gender and everybody can have their subjective non-binary experience. I was like, what does that even mean? And she was like, well, I was looking at myself in the mirror one time, and I thought, what does it even mean to be a woman? And I was like, what do you mean? Because she was like, my experience as a woman is different from someone else's experience as a woman, therefore it doesn't even exist as a concept. And so I immediately like repudiated that. I was like, you're insane. And she ended up now becoming like a far right Catholic or whatever because I took like 5 seconds to just impart reality to her. But you're totally right about that. Even the word gender, look at like the etymology of it. Where do we see generate, genesis in reference to, creation, dermatology, taxidermy, flesh, creating flesh, right? The word itself is linked to the act which creates, being like normal sex between like a man and a woman. And it is not possible to separate that concept from the reality of biology being something that is binary between men and women. So you can't say, well, sex is biological, but gender is obviously different. Literally, no, dude. The word comes from that act itself, which is, of course, rooted in biology and God's plan.
Yeah. So, I think that the more we can kind of push the idea that gender is a total fabrication, and obviously the left agrees because they say gender is a social construct, and so they agree that it's just something that's created, and if it was created by man, then man can just stop using it and just leave it behind in the dustbin of history.
But even what you said before is I would say it goes a little bit beyond that, because you're saying that people have a specific purpose in life as well, and so it's like for example, like John Doyle's not going to be a basketball player. Like,
well, listen, neither am I. I'm 5'6".
Phil, neither are you. Yeah, like it's just like it is what it is.
I still have some eligibility left if any recruiters.
And so we can all laugh about that, but at the same time, that also lends itself to other areas and other fields as well. And so for people to just deny that and say you could be whatever you want, and we hear these little lies that are told all throughout our society. You can be whatever you want. You could do. Actually, no. It's actually not true. There's the specific set of, and you want to go back, the Bible actually talks about this, right? Everyone is given certain talents, certain talents and certain gifts and certain abilities. And by the way, like if your talent is being a miner and turning big rocks into smaller rocks, then that's amazing. Go be the greatest at that of all time. And by the way, so people want to, and there's nothing wrong with that. People want to knock on that. Go to the Royal Salt Mines of Krakow, and you will see that the Polish miners, what they would do down there is every single day when they would get off shift, they would chisel things into the walls of the mines and of the tunnels, and they would build elaborate cathedrals, and they would build chapels and statues and mosaics. And there's a giant one bigger than this room of the Last Supper that one miner did every single day when he got off shift, and he never finished it. And then after he died, it was completed by his son. So,
Yeah.
like sit there and tell me that like that's not a good purpose. So guess what? That was the purpose that he found in his life, and he used it to enrich his family, to go home and have kids, and to glorify God. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
I'll just say real quick as well. Is like the one thing that's frustrating with the gender debate, as we're pontificating on, is actually my gripe's kind of with the right, because it feels like the GOP, because they know that it's like, at best a 60-40, probably even 70-30 issue. Like the only people really pushing this is like the Democrat core base, is that we've expended a lot of political capital on this fight, on this sort of debacle. But the thing is, the gender thing is actually downstream from the actual issue, which is fundamentally like the blank slate and that sort of thing. And that's what they adhere to. And the GOP, a lot of these guys aren't ready to touch that yet, but they know that the gender thing is where they can score a lot of points in XP farm. And so it's kind of frustrating. It's like we've expended a lot of time and a lot of political capital on this issue, and we've danced around what it's downstream from. It's like, okay, you knock out one leg, there's still like 4 legs left of this thing. Instead of actually attacking at the top.
Well, and that's why I brought it up, though.
Right. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The reason that I said, and I mean, Phil's the one who made the point, but that there is no such thing as a tabula rasa, right? Genetics is real, biology is real, all of the reality is real. Reality is just real, and we have to stop pretending that these made up concepts that don't comport with what we actually see as reality can be true, because that's what leads you to the place where you're getting bone pelvis surgery.
Yeah, literally.
It's because you've so convinced yourself that this is what I need, and guess what? You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to be fulfilled. If you want to be fulfilled, accept who you are and accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, because Christ is King.
It's just going to be one more. It's going to be one more lie that you're going to have to tell everybody for the rest of your life.
And deep
while
down,
you're
they all know
yourself,
it. Deep down, they all know it.
While you're lying to yourself about it, you're going to have to sit there and look yourself in the mirror and say, "No, actually, I am this." But in the back of your mind, you're going to know you're not.
And that's why we see it. This is the community. The transgender community is the most. It is the most violent, and they have the most violent tendencies, and in fact, they have the most suicidal ideation of any single group in America.
Yeah, it's true.
That's why.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of want to drop back into is like, and that's why you have to root this out at the top, because like I was saying earlier, where at this point it is almost like a safe, edgy issue for the GOP to some regard, because I remember when the Irina Zarutska situation happened, it was like a day after the video came out and everyone was outraged. And then I can't remember, I gotta find it. I can't remember which Republican congressman it was. He just tweeted out like, by the way, there's only 2 genders. And it was like, yeah, we know. Yeah, it's like, whoa, truth nuke. And it's like, hey, that lady just got stabbed, and like we're trying to address black crime right now. And it's like, okay, yeah, you got that. We got that down. It's like, hello, there's something above here. There's something like controlling this specific apparatus.
Frankly, if we want to be a little cynical, they don't even really have a good answer to the way the left is presenting the argument, because like the way the left like sort of confronts the issue is to say like, what is gender? What is like the essence of male and female experience, behavior? And the right's answer to that is just like, what are you talking about? Read a biology textbook. And it's like, okay, yes, like you are correct, but if they're having a higher level conversation about like social constructs, what is womanhood, that is frankly a question that many on the right are afraid to confront, because they don't want to get into trouble with their wives and make the claim that women have a way that they tend to behave and maybe should even ought to behave, because they're afraid to get, crap from a lot of the feminists that we have on our side, a lot of girl bosses and a lot of wives who are married to guys who are basically like Ned Flanders. And so they'll take it there and say like, of course there are 2 genders, whatever whatever. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to be a man? And more importantly, maybe right now, what does it mean to be a woman? How should women behave? We know how men behave. We have sort of known that for a while, actually. I don't think that my behavior is much different from my grandfather's behavior. However, my sister's behavior, and she's a good girl, but she is behaving much differently from the way that, like, our grandmother behaved. Because women, because of feminism, we've seen that experiment in the last 100 or so years of what it looks like when women all of a sudden have, no expectations of their behavior, because any expectations of their behavior would be patriarchy, civilization, whatever you want to call it. Whereas men, we've learned a little bit about what men will sort of, how they will respond to being like completely domesticated, having the state really just like impose itself upon them and feminize them and do stuff like that. And so anything we've learned in the last 60 or 70 years about like human behavior between the sexes, it's been far more illuminating about like what women will do when they don't have, traditional society sort of imposed upon them the way that, this country was built on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the Post's point. It's like, a lot of this is like the essence. Like there was that video of like a trans, it was like a male to female or whatever. It was a female to male. And he had like this beard that he grew with all these chemicals and everything. Or she grew with, like, it's so confusing. With all the chemicals and everything.
I can never do it. I know
it's tough. But she was having like a mental breakdown about like whatever. And I was like, it's still a woman. Like it's still obviously a woman, because it's like John's saying is this goes beyond just like, oh, read a biology textbook. It's like, no, how ought women conduct themselves and to be in the fullness of a woman?
There was
they naturally gravitate towards that in some ways.
There was a line where it's a little bit morbid, but do you remember Aubrey Hale, who was the Nashville Christian shooter? Well, she went, and because biological female, a lot of people get that one wrong. That was a she. And one of the rare times you actually do see a female conducting a mass shooting, which is rare, it certainly is, and hopefully we don't see more of those. When she wrote this manifesto, but when she uploaded it online, it was a PDF, and she left it password locked. and I remember a bunch of people saying like, "Well, who wouldn't have made that mistake? A man."
Oh, literally. Oh, like you can look at like the suicide success rate.
Oh, dude, no.
Like women attempted a lot and it never works.
Because women will be like going through something and that's awful, and they'll just have a moment where they're like, man, and then guys are much more rational, like, okay, I'm not getting out of this.
Yeah.
we gotta commit to it.
Literally, yeah, that's so true. Unfortunately.
All right, we're gonna go to some questions from the Discord here today. Let's see. I'm gonna bring up. Find.
Yeah, I'll go back to the beginning 1 second here. Let me just go back to where we started.
I found the emoji you were talking about as well.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Just so everyone knows, let them know why we're reading from Discord.
All right, so
where's it now?
Yeah, just bring it down.
Yeah, there it is, somewhere here.
All right, here we go. Let's see. So, question for the panel from Crimson. Was it?
Catnip.
Crimson Catnip. Question for the panel. How can we as Americans celebrate Christmas with so many people on the left, and specifically Muslims, calling for its abolition? You just do. You ignore them and you do. And then when they
think about how much it angers them to celebrate Christmas, right? Yep. You sit there and go, hey buddy, hey, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Christ is Lord. Christ was born on this day on December 25th, 2025 years ago, and there's nothing you can do about it, because God so loved the world, he sent his only son so that people who believe in him may have eternal life. Let's go.
Christ,
Protestants.
Literally, what are you going to do? Christ literally descended and shattered the timeline in half, BC to AD.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Unbelievable. Patriot.
Yeah. So just do.
Total patriot.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus is a patriot.
Jesus Christ.
He's awesome. Patriot. Love him.
All right. Let's see. I don't know who this person is. What's the name on there?
It should.
Because I'll just there's always going to be negativity, right? There's going to be there's always going to be negative things in the world, and even when I think about like Charlie and Erica and the family and how horrific this is and everything they're going through, I still know that she's going to do everything she can to have a great Christmas with the kids, because and certainly, right, that she hasn't lost her faith or anything. It's actually faith that helps us through this suffering. It's faith that helps us through as a crutch, as a cradle for you. If you don't, I feel bad for people that don't have faith, you know what I mean? That don't have that. And that's of course why they go nuts when something like this happens. But, you might think like, well, how could why would God let bad things happen, right? And it's one of those deals where you sit back and say, no, this is all a test. This is all a testing ground, and yeah, we don't know what's going to come up next. And I'll just say that it's one of those things that makes you realize that we're not in control. We're so not in control, and if you don't just give yourself up to God and realize that like He's the boss, and you're just like nothing, but He still loves you anyway, and that's the the greatest joy of it.
Mr. Somber Joe says, what does the panel think about the Maryland man being free due to our great justice system? He's making a joke, but the Maryland man is Garcia from
I saw there was some news on that. What's the actual update?
Yeah, he was released.
Yeah.
Released by who?
Obama judge.
Obama judge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in Maryland, so at the federal level.
Yeah.
And he was released on what grounds?
I don't know what the grounds were.
It was the original injunction, which was that he could not be released or he could not be deported.
Liberia wasn't good enough,
which is insane.
The initial injunction that was basically giving him a stay.
Right, which was incorrect, because if I remember correctly, that the initial injunction was that he could not be deported to El Salvador.
Right.
And what the Trump administration came back and said they were going to do was we're going to deport him to another country then.
And they were like,
I think Liberia
and the injunction never said that.
So
they're going to go to Liberia. And so, I mean, that sounds, as ridiculous as this is, there's two things, right? Number one, obviously, I think that can and should be appealed. There's no question. And number two, it goes to show you that we don't live in a world that's like controlled by the CIA and controlled by like all this stuff. Like, are they out there? Are the nefarious actors out there? Sure. But ultimately, the correct way to view the world is that there are liberal Marxists who actually believe everything Antifa says, and they are in control of almost every single institution. We don't have to invent new conspiracies. We're already living through one.
If you want to reassure yourself of that, just think of CIA as standing for clowns in action. Right? They are imperfect people. They make mistakes. They are not some kind of nefarious, string pullers. And if they were, then the Bay of Pigs would have worked.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been to CIA's offices, I've been to the new building, I've been to the old building, I've been to Langley, I've been to like every three-letter agency in the government, right? There's no magical powers that they have. Like, these are mostly just office buildings. There's no, do they do shady stuff? Are they involved in operations, covert? Of course, yes. But the idea that there's some like magical shadow world that like all that stuff you see on TV, the Jack Ryan, it's all the Black Ops going on, and all those I'm not for book banning, but if I was, it would be like Tom Clancy and Jack Carr.
Literally.
It's just literal airport brain rot. You're sitting there. It's airport brain rot, right?
Right next to the Prince Harry book.
Yeah. It's just like these guys. It's like, right. So they do the Prince Harry book for the women, and then they do Jack Carr for men, and to make you a moid. And they're like, oh yeah, we gotta invade Venezuela, we gotta invade Lebanon and Iran, we gotta knock over the mullahs. It's like meanwhile, what's actually going on is that Abrego Garcia, who's a human trafficker, was just released. There's like black people just stabbing white people in high schools or on subways every single day. And all of this is going on, like probably not far from your house. Yep. And if you actually just looked into what's really happening in your area, you would be shocked. But the only TV, and this why I talk about mass media so much, Stranger Things, et cetera, because this is where we get our view of the world from and our worldview. So if you're sitting there just consuming this airport brain rot, you're thinking, oh my gosh, we got to worry about all these things. You're not actually paying attention to the very real things that can and will get you and your family killed if you don't pay attention to them.
And to your point, one of the things that the government continually shoves down people's throat, or prior to the Trump administration, was the idea that the most dangerous people in the world, in America, and the biggest threat to America was young white men. Yep. And that's something that we just had a piece on it last night. I forget what her name was, but she was a state senator talking about how she wants white kids to think about how bad it is to be white. And it's like, this is something that the government has been, shoving down your throat. And you get it from mass media. There was a piece where I think it was on the Tonight Show or whatever, making jokes about how bad it is to be, how bad white men are. And this is totally if it was any other race, obviously, and this has been said a million times, if it was any other race, obviously everyone would be up in arms.
Yep.
But you've got a whole generation of young kids that have grown up hearing this stuff, and they're rejecting it out of hand. And personally, I think it's good that they're rejecting it. Now, what narrative they decide to internalize, I think that does matter. But you can't expect young guys to sit there and say, "Yeah, I'm the problem."
Yep.
You know, I feel bad for it. That's just not going to happen.
Oh, it's also, by the way, on the spy agencies thing. Like, how many times does James O'Keefe have to just like put on a pair of glasses and he fools all of these homosexuals that are running our spy agencies?
This KDR on Grinders and
You know what I mean? He just hops on Grindr and they're like, "Hi, I'm like this whatever CIA agent. Let's go on a date." You know, that's actually the new joke. Because remember the old thing used to be the pizza monitor of the Pentagon. You could see that if the pizza place were busy around 10 p.m., they might think there's military activity.
Yeah.
Well, now the new one is if the gay bars have low activity around like Northern Virginia, that means like there's an operation
We're about
going
to
on.
invade somewhere.
They're like, wow, the gay bars are really quiet, and then suddenly it's like kaboom, massive bombing goes off.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, but like it's real because they'll sit there and they don't even realize it's James O'Keefe with a pair of glasses and doing a little bit of a voice, you know.
Yeah.
And he kind of does that like up talk, lispy kind of thing, and suddenly they all fall for it. But like
Your
that's
CIA officials, by the way.
that's reality. Dude, it's not Jack Carr. Those are the people running the intelligence agencies.
1960s Batman level gadgets where it's like, here's my glasses, and then the CIA's like, oh fuck.
Tell who that is.
Dude, no, he's not gay. He's with O'Keefe Media, bro. Trust me, he's not gay, bro.
Wait, it's so funny you mentioned that about Batman because there's that in the 1960s Batman movie where where Catwoman just like takes on a Russian accent, and it's obviously her, but he's like, "Oh, Miss Kitka."
Yeah.
Which Batman was it where the Joker goes into Two-Face's hospital room with the mask on? He doesn't recognize him, and he has the makeup on.
Dark
he takes
Knight.
the mask off. He's like,
Dark
"Whoa!"
Knight. Yeah.
Right.
Literally O'Keefe. No, it's like the Pentagon. I was like, because I was.
Oh, yeah, we were there.
Yeah, I'm an airport American, so I went in and I was expecting it to be like this high tech, like everyone's running around with like clipboards, and I walk in.
You're like, so where's the missile button?
I know. I was like, where's like the kill like everyone button? And it was like there wasn't one, unfortunately. And also it's like a mall. Like I just walked in, I was like standing in Starbucks line.
It's not like 5. It's not like Black Ops Zombies, man. Can you take me to the 5 room, please?
Yeah, it was just a bunch of wages. I was like, what is this? It's just
Literally,
Pentagon-shaped wage cage.
Brother, I'm here to tell you that's every single intelligence agency is like that. Every single
That's
one.
the thing that's annoying too is the people who are like the biggest like, dude, it's the CIA. The stuff they believe about the CIA is like that it put like crack into black neighborhoods, or that we were toppling communist governments throughout the latter half of the 20th century. Just like Reddit mind slop that isn't even real.
That's the consoling idea for communists, right?
Yeah.
They say, well, you know, communism would have worked if it wasn't for the damn CIA.
That's right. That's exactly
Bill
right.
McCarthy vindicated, by the way.
You'll see this like on Instagram.
Even the Russians admitted it.
Yeah.
You'll see this on Instagram when it's like a black guy like huffing galaxy gas or like little black kids like singing a really explicit rap song. And then the comments will be like, CIA doing backflips right now. Oh, the CIA. And I'm like, the CIA is not. What is the CIA in 2025? Like, let's demonize the black community. Like, what is going on?
They're calling that dude who hands out the machetes and alcohol to these guys a CIA agent.
That
It's
guy's
like,
a
come
patriot, dude.
Yeah.
That guy's sick.
Like I said, clowns in action. So we're going to go to some more questions from the Discord. Kevin Adele says, do you guys know about D&E abortions? It's just delivering a baby and killing it in the process. I never want to hear about a medically necessary abortion again. P.S. Is that Connor Tomlinson without the glasses or hair gel? No.
People have been saying that.
It's John Doyle.
My brother across the pond.
Analog.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, look,
Same.
look, it's.
You Irish Catholics.
I think most of the guys around the table here agree that, and I don't want to speak for anyone, but I get the sense that everybody kind of agrees that abortion is murder. And so, as much as the D&E abortions are graphic and conceptually horrific, you know, abortion's abortion. It's killing an unborn human being, regardless of whether the baby is full term or not. So
For a lot of people who, you know, maybe don't have the religious backing on this, or, you know, just don't have various, you know, belief structures on abortion, and will say, well, I don't really care, whatever. Let me posit this. Do you know the very first country to legalize abortion? It was the Soviet Union.
yeah.
All right, it was literally the Soviet Union was the first country. And Tucker was talking recently about how it was the UK's embrace of abortion that made them just sort of hate themselves as a people. Because what you're doing is that you're devaluing your own life. You're devaluing the life of your own people and devaluing the life of Americans in our sense, devaluing the life of fellow Russians in the Soviet Union sense. And this is something where, I was over and the Polish election was held earlier this year, and this became a huge issue because abortion is still a criminal act in Poland. It's like the only country in Europe where this is true. And gay marriage still not respected in Poland, and no migrants, by the way, Poland-based, and Patriots. And so it made me think about it that, this all stems from a place, now yes, Poland is also religious, but it also stems from a place where they've faced serious repression and serious, like actual oppression from invading forces and,
the Nazis
and
and
actual communism. And so their response has been this: we need to protect our people, and these are the steps we're going to do to put that in action. And one of those, of course, is increasing the birth rate, doing a lot of social policies in order to increase the birth rate. But I never really thought of abortion just outside of moral terms in the sense of what does it do to a country when, and this the obvious person, thinking where, well, I don't have to have that kid if I don't want to.
Yeah.
There are options. And then you pull that out at scale, that it will lead to a lower birth rate. It simply does.
Yeah. Well, in Britain, literally the latest NHS data is that 1 in 3 pregnancies ends in an abortion. So 33% of British fetuses are being aborted. Babies, right? Yeah.
I know what you mean.
The Mayans, everyone knows them, the child sacrifice, very infamous. The Aztecs. There was an estimate with the Aztec Empire that the human sacrifice was 1 to 2% of the population.
Unreal.
And so you can extrapolate that about 2% of their children were sacrificed and whatnot. And the Spanish exterminated them off the face of the planet.
So you're saying that
they
our
exterminated.
societies
Yeah.
sacrifice more children than the Mayans and Aztecs
By exorbitantly higher. And it's the Spanish completely exterminated like 3 different civilizations off the face of the planet for far less than what's being conducted in the West at scale, at volume right now.
Yeah.
Again, Catholic.
Point for you guys.
Let's see.
Luther was still
Can't-
kicking.
Can't sleep
cooking in
easy.
hell.
Can't sleep easy says, with all this Charlie thing and how the left reacted to it, do you believe that could give the Somalians and Afghans the thought that violence is okay to stop the deportations?
Yes.
Look, man.
Yes.
I think they already think.
We already saw it. We already
I don't
saw
know
it in
if you need to
D.C.
teach the Somalians about violence.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think that the Afghans and the Somalians already would imagine that violence is acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trump was saying like they're not good at anything in Somalia except like pirating.
Just look.
They
at
are
the-
pretty good at. I'll give them that. They're good at that.
Just look at the levels of violence in those countries compared to the United States.
Yeah.
And I think that it goes without saying that violence is something that those cultures are far more more comfortable with than your average American is.
It's a PvP server over there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, I mean, and Trump was right when he said, name anything functional out of that country. Anything
Literally.
at all whatsoever.
Nothing.
Just no. And so this, to your point about certain people and certain, have certain talents, right? That's there you go.
And their piracy is like really dysgenic. Like, you think about like European pirates and
The golden age of
they
American
had like
piracy.
some, like swag on. They had like a cool hat. Like, they had like
They made a code too. There were like rules to
They
it.
had some.
Yeah.
They just had aura. You look at the Somali, they'll roll up with like sweatpants with like a gun that barely works. It's like what? Like
class.
Some fishing
Yeah,
boat,
just sloppy.
nothing.
Haven't cleaned the AK and
Yeah, they're wearing, like,
since your grandfather owned it.
they're wearing like sweatpants and like dress
That's the point of
shoes.
vacation.
It's like the most wild thing ever.
All right. Let's see. We got SF Camp. What was that?
SF Campbell, actually.
SF Campbell says, POTUS national security strategy, allegedly leaked, proposes a Core 5 alliance between the U.S., Russia, China, India, and Japan, identified as civilizational populist cultures. This is to choke out the European Union and downgrade global influence of the far leftist European countries. Let's talk about abolition of EU. It's not my business what the EU does, and I don't think that it's good for the United States to believe that we can align with China or Russia, but I do think that it is good to focus on the Western Hemisphere, really put some effort into the Monroe Doctrine, and to do our best to root out Russian and Chinese influence in South America. But I don't know what you guys.
I mean, I'll put it this way: I don't know that there was a call for an alliance between those 5 countries. That may be a little bit maximalist, but I think the idea would be more: hey, what if we stop provoking these countries? What if instead of having a policy of we want to provoke Russia into war and we want to provoke China into war, what if we rather say, okay, we're simply separate countries with separate interests, but perhaps we have areas where our interests might align with, like, for example, space exploration, which is something that the United States and Russia do on a regular basis and have continued to do so, by the way, or Arctic exploration, which again, energy, there's so many things that, and we're able to do so because at the end of the day, right, there's something neocons will never tell you, but you're not just going to like eliminate these countries from the face of the planet. Like China will always be there, Russia will always be there, India will always be there. So you have to figure out a way to deal with it and just be adults about it. Just be adults.
You're smirking. What do you got?
Don, why are you smirking when I said
biggest
India?
black pill of the night. India will always be there. India will always be there. Oh my God.
Don, did you have something you wanted to add to the class?
I am a big fan of everyone here, and I'm just soaking it all in. Happy to be here.
All right.
I love
this
India.
Mrs. Catterific says, and this is a long one, but it's good. How are we supposed to not feel demoralized by everything right now when critical thinking shows us Trump has decided to mesh with the swamp? I have 3 family members who were hardcore Trump voters the last 3 elections, and they've been disillusioned. Not because of Candace, but because Trump himself has fumbled a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. To normal people, we see him going after Thomas Massie while sucking up to Lindsey Graham. He went after MTG, but he's silent on rhinos. When has he ever gone after rhinos like this? This administration is gaslighting us just like the last one was, and people are sick of it. And despite influencers saying it doesn't matter, the handling of Epstein does matter, because when you see that behavior along with no Doge, no Elon Musk, no spending cuts, it feels like we've been fooled. Long-winded, but that's my question. Also, I'm one of the Discord members who met my husband on here, married 1.5 months ago, so thanks, staff.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations. That's great to hear.
Congrats. That's awesome. Great, Phil.
Look, I say this a lot. A lot of the things that people hope for Trump to do, the president himself doesn't have the ability to do or maintain because it's done through executive orders. Nobody likes to look at how the sausage is made in D.C., and it is disheartening. I understand and I agree. But in my opinion, Donald Trump has done the best that he can with most of the issues. I do agree that the Epstein stuff has been a fumble, and it was bad overall. But I do think that if you look at the grand scheme of things, Donald Trump has done far better than any president in the past 15, 20 years. And I know that John Doyle has some thoughts on this.
I respect your opinion so much, and I'm so glad you have it. And, you know, I understand what you're saying, but like at a certain point, I saw this yesterday or something, like the first term for president, whether it's like Trump, you know, in 17, Obama, Bush, the amount of bills they passed in their first term was like in the excess, it was like 80, 90, 100 or something. Trump now, like Trump 2.0 in his first year has passed 5 bills. Do we not have like majority in chambers of Congress? Like, so what's going on? And, you know, going after like MTG rather than someone like Lindsey Graham, I'm not the biggest Lindsey Graham fan. You're not going to see me like, you know, casting this guy as like the ideal Republican or something. But because he's been around longer in the swamp, he knows how the game is played. And Trump is somebody who likes it when people are loyal to him and likes it when they don't cause problems for him, which is, I guess, a really weird like temperamental characteristic of his. And someone like MTG has gone out of her way to like cause problems for Trump and for his administration. Even like Thomas Massie. Like I have to hear all the time about how Thomas Massie is this based America First patriot. This is a guy who co-sponsored bills to increase the amount of immigrants who are coming in here on visas. This is a guy who voted against Trump's wall, and he says it's because he's a fiscal conservative. So it's like on paper, this guy has allied himself when it mattered most with Democrats. It can be for whatever little principle he wants it to be, but do you think Democrats care about that? It's like, hey, do we want this guy to impede Trump's agenda? Well, is he doing it because he agrees with us or because he's got his own little reason? Like, do you think they actually care about that? Or even the BBB actually providing spending to enact the funding to enact the agenda that is going to outline Trump's second administration. We needed Republicans on board. Where was Thomas Massie? He was against it because we shouldn't be spending more money. Let me let you in on a little secret. If we don't like win, the money's not going to matter. The currency's not going to matter. We're going to lose. Exactly. Well, it's racking up more debt. We are going to have to solve that at a later time, unfortunately, because we basically need to just like take money and use it to fund our agenda to prevent communists from being in power again. If we fail at that, debt, I mean, you're going to get all of that anyway. So I understand what you're saying. Like, is the second Trump administration exactly what I want it to be? No. Am I frustrated that Trump is like fighting off young staffers every day who are rushing in trying to push the fix everything button and he's like gatekeeping it? Like, yeah, I wish he wouldn't do that. Yeah. However, this is politics. You know, you were talking about the leviathan that is the global left, and we have Donald Trump in the White House. That's it. We are trying to right a ship. We're cold starting something that has never been meant to function as a representation of the will of the American people. And actually, when it is functioning, it's working directly against those interests. So frankly, 11, 12 months in, this is beyond. I'm probably, well, no, I mean, Jackson, I am one of the biggest Trump shills working today. And even I am, frankly, like, far more optimistic about what we've seen just in year one than I would have realistically expected, like prior to that, you know. So I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, you know, we have to understand. You saw that clip that was going around the other day. It was a hot mic where Trump is like, I can't get my confirmation. Well, like, what's going on? You have to understand there are all of these swamp creatures who are like, I'm just going to bide my time, dude, because I saw what they did to you. I saw what they did to Charlie Kirk. I saw what they did to your allies, indicting them, your supporters, putting them in prison. I'd rather like my, you know, 4-star hotels, my black car service, my millions of dollars a year for book deals, speeches where I get to go around and say, we need to do the right thing. And all of these beautiful-hearted people, right, are saying, so true, so true. Okay, well, there's saying the right thing and there's doing the right thing. And the only reason that anything good has been done in the last 10 years is because of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, that just happens to be the case, for better or worse. That could be why they, I don't know, mugshotted him. That could be why they tried to assassinate him. And so it's very easy to tell ourselves that now that he's back and he's trying to right this ship, that he finally betrayed us. It's like, dude, he could have betrayed us at any point. You think there weren't deals for this guy where it's like, hey, just drop out and we'll like let your cultural status remain. You can keep your money. We won't go after you. We won't go after your family. Just like stop. That was always on the table for this guy up until the arrest, up until the assassination attempt, and he never quit. So insofar as we have like 10 years of his behavior in that direction, the idea that what we're seeing now being like underdeveloped fruits would be because of some betrayal or that he's meshing with the swamp, like you say, at a certain point, you have to decide, has this guy earned your loyalty? Has this guy earned your trust? Well, true. No politician has. Okay, dude, like at a certain point, I made a personal decision to like pledge loyalty to this guy as someone who I think actually does have my best interests at heart, not because he's a politician, but because he like took a bullet for me, because the guy who died for our country believed that about Trump and believed that about Vance, Charlie Kirk. So at a certain point, like you just have to make that decision whether or not you want to throw your weight behind this guy or you just want to be like, you know, no, he's a part of it. I'm going to wait for what? Who's the other game in town? We have nothing.
Yeah. True that. Yeah, well, it's all these people are like, ankle biting and everything. And same thing, like I'm like Trump shill, et cetera, et cetera. That's what people say. And I agree. It's a good assessment.
I don't shill him to shill him. I shill him because he's good.
Because he's good. It's like, if you told me on January 20th, we'd be at net negative migration by the end of the year, I'd be like, oh, I mean, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Right.
Like this is policy. And like 5 years ago, if you advocated for net negative migration on a conservative panel, you got tossed off. Yep. Now it's policy of the United States. Right. Just read through the NSS. Unbelievable stuff.
Yep.
I mean, it's a complete reorientation of the State Department in a year. I mean, look, there's criticism, et cetera, but it's like, look at the bigger picture. We're not just advancing the ball down the field. We're breaking 10-yard, 20-yard runs.
Yeah. I think that's really one of the things that people get hung up on when you bring up the NSS. The policy side of it, right? That's the thing that people have a difficult time kind of digesting. They want to see immediate results. They want to see. They assume that President Trump is the emperor, the God emperor Donald Trump. Yep. And whereas there are some people that would love to see that, that's just not realistic when you think about the way that DC works and how our system is set up.
Yeah. I would just add to all of this that specifically when you mentioned Massey, that Trump is a counterpuncher. So if you come at him, he's going to come back. That's the one thing that we've known about him since even before he was in politics.
Yep.
And Thomas Massey has been going around saying that Trump is a pedophile who's part of Epstein's pedophile ring and just doing this over and over and over. So I remember that this happened with Ron DeSantis when he first started running and people were like, why is Trump attacking DeSantis? Why is he doing this? Like, well, he's running against him. So to run against the man who put you in office, to run against the man who built your political career, took you from a congressional backbencher and made you governor of Florida is, again, it's just a huge betrayal. It's look, we were talking about heel turns earlier, right?
Yeah.
Right, massive heel turn. So why would you not expect him to respond once you've done something like this? But I noticed something that's interesting from a lot of people who say this is they never once look at the behavior of the initial person, right?
Yeah.
The actual person who initiated. They only look at the response from Trump. Like, I can't believe he's saying that. I can't believe he's saying that. But if you just put it in context, then okay, like maybe you realize he's responding to something that possibly didn't have to happen, but did. And so he's responding in kind.
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, because Trump was an ardent supporter of MTG. What, he just changed his mind one day? Is that? It's like, no, go analyze her behavior, and you'll see very clearly why he's disgruntled.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't remember the first admin. I mean, the first admin, we couldn't even get funding for the wall. We were getting funding for goat farming in Nepal. I mean, what the hell? You know, and that's why even now when people criticize him now, it's like, dude, this administration is 20 times better than it was back in the first term.
Yep.
The first term, we couldn't get anything done except for corporate taxes. Now we're giving DHS a freaking military budget to get out there and deport people and try to achieve that MAGA agenda. So, you know, when people try to ankle bite and say, oh, he's nothing, he hasn't done anything, it's like, no, he's done a lot of things. He stopped the mass migration that was happening under Biden, where you were getting, 5 million illegals in a year? Now it's at net zero, and we're deporting people. And it's like, yes, we've stopped the bleeding, and we have a lot more to do. But it's only been we're coming up at 1 year. We still have 3 more years to get things done. So
In January, all the hiring kicks in.
Yep.
Yeah. So
By the way, all the goat farming in Nepal, just quick note. I don't think we're actually doing that just to fund goat farming in Nepal, like all those little random things. No, that's money laundering. Okay, that's money laundering, and that's just the name on top. You know what I mean?
Is it, Trump, when we invaded Iraq and he was like, all this, it's like, where's the oil? It's probably the same thing as like, where's the goats? Like, funny, but where are the goats? That would be.
Yeah, and you look at the USAID stuff, and it's, okay, this is very obviously just money laundering.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, so we got one more quick one that I'm just going to read off. I don't think that there's a whole lot to say about it, but what is it? Valkyris from he's a Dane. He says, so Trump promised you'd take Greenland off our hands. Do you guys still think that's on the table? Or are we going to continue to have to waste resources on that asshole?
We need it.
We certainly should. We certainly should.
Big Greenland guy.
our neighborhood.
Greenland in spirit. Greenland is already ours. We have a base there.
Yes.
You know, it's in the northern North America. It's on in our hemisphere. It's on North America. So in spirit, it's
We
American
should have
soil.
never given it back.
Yeah.
I would even say it was ours by right of conquest in World War II, because which country deployed their military there to defend Greenland? Was it any of Europe? Was it the British? No, it was the United States of America. And to your point, we're stupid for putting our military there and not declaring sovereignty over it.
So yeah, according to when it comes to Greenland, the EU is already BTFO.
And literally, we already have military control of it. So
Yeah. So listen, share the show with your friends. Smash the like button. We're gonna and also join our Discord. We're gonna wrap it here. John Doyle, you got anything you want to go ahead and shout out?
Yeah, I do a show called The John Doyle Show, which you should go listen to. And it's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff, where we talk about politics and all sorts of interesting stuff. So,
Patriot.
Charlie Kirk wrote one book before he died. It was called Stop in the Name of God. I have a copy of it right here. Erica Kirk wrote the foreword after Charlie's murder. And this book is not about politics. This book is about the importance of taking a day, get off your phone, reset. He talks about health, talks about spirituality. You connect with your family, connect with yourself, connect with God. It's a great thing. Charlie did this throughout his life. He took 1 day off per week. We're called to do this, by the way. God did this. God, on the 7th day, God rested. And Charlie really believed that, and he talks about, by the way, how he went from this guy who would never sleep and pull all-nighters. And, I'm just going to say it, man. There's some images that you could see of Charlie when he was a little bit getting a little unhealthy there, where he was, the seed oils were winning. And then he switches. And this book kind of talks about how he regained control of that by reformatting his thinking to understanding that if you take that, rest isn't a sign of weakness. It's not like, oh, I'm being lazy. It's actually understanding how your body works, how your soul works, how your life works, and it's investing in yourself so that you can do more. So the book is called Stop in the Name of God, and you should go check it out.
There we go. Yeah, you can follow me on X and Instagram at Real Tate Brown. Culture War channel this weekend, Across the Pond with Connor Tomlinson. Go check it out. Tomorrow we covered the Tyler Robinson situation, kind of what creates these Tyler Robinson types. So we break that down. And then on Sunday, we got Orrin McIntyre. Great interview. We discuss why the GOP are so retarded. So go check that out.
And you can follow Timcast News. Me and the team are working hard to keep you guys up to date with all the latest happenings and what's happening here at the studio. So.
All right, check out Clips all weekend, and we will see you guys on Monday for IRL live from Vegas.
Yeah, just want to say peace out, guys. It's been real. We'll see you guys soon.